2020.
Signing executive orders that roll back or put under review President Obama's efforts to fight climate change, including emissions limits at coal-fired power plants that have been challenged in court.
We're going to continue to expand energy production, and we will also create more jobs in infrastructure, trucking, and manufacturing. This will allow the EPA to focus on its primary mission of protecting our air and protecting our water.
Critics say this will only hurt the environment and won't bring back coal jobs.
Thanks to this executive order, our future is looking darker, it's looking dirtier, and it's looking less prosperous.
Democratic Senator Tom Carper, environmental groups, and more than a dozen attorneys general are pledging to challenge President Trump's orders in court. Both sides on Capitol Hill digging in ahead of the vote on the president's Supreme Court pick. Fox Radio's Jared Halpern live on the Hill.
Neil Gorsuch could win final confirmation as Associate Justice of the Supreme Court next week. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell planning a vote a week from Friday.
It's almost amusing to watch our Democratic friends try to come up with some rationale for opposition.
Under current rules, Gorsuch will need 60 votes to clear a procedural hurdle. Democratic leader Chuck Schumer has his doubts.
And it's going to be a real uphill climb for him to get those 60 votes.
Republican leaders say Gorsuch will be confirmed, and they could try to force a rules change to require just a simple majority for Supreme Court confirmations. Lisa.
Thanks, Jared. Encouraging news for the economy. Rallying stocks. The Dow up 150 points. Just over 20,700 at the bell. Fox News Radio. Fair and balanced.
ADT presents What to Consider When Considering Home Security. An ADT sign is more than a sign. It's a line in the sand. On one side, your family. On the other, an uncertain world.
For over 140 years, more people have chosen ADT to help prevent crime than anyone else. Get ADT starting at just $28.99 a month.
Tested, trusted, proven ADT.
With 36-month contract for licensing and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Wesley had IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Coming after my house, my car. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
Wesley called Optima Tax Relief.
Oh, they were great people. Optima Tax. They know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-567-2261. 800-567-2261.
Optima Tax Relief.
Fourth body found after the deadly fire at an apartment complex in Oakland.
This fire started early Monday morning. Residents woke up to screams, warning of the flames. 7 years ago, the owner of the apartment building converted it into transitional housing for substance abusers and those who were nearly homeless. Records show a history of issues with the building. Just a few days prior to the fire, several code violations were discovered, including a lack of fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, and sprinklers. Some of the residents had been worried for a while, and code violations had been reported well before this.
Wires exposed to it. There's toilets overflowing. A lot of people with mental health issues.
The place needed repairs, and we were doing the best we could. We cleaned up the back.
One of the residents says he thinks the fire may have started when someone lit candles on a blanket in one of the rooms.
Fox Radio's Jessica Rosenthal. Building inspectors already under scrutiny in Oakland after a warehouse fire in January that killed 36 people. A federal judge signs off on a deal between the state of Michigan and the city of Flint
to settle a lawsuit by residents over lead-contaminated water in Flint, including the replacement of at least 18,000 lead or galvanized steel water lines by 2020, with the state and federal government picking up the tab, totaling around $100 million. Residents there became sickened after the city switched from Detroit water to corrosive river water in 2014, which leached lead from Flint's aged pipes.
Fox Radio's Jeff Manasso. More than a dozen current and former officials face criminal charges. A book lover with a guilty conscience, a man who stole a book from a Montana library in 1982, has returned it along with a letter asking forgiveness, which seems likely since he also included a $200 donation, had the book restored, and had the author sign it. The book was a 1975 novel, Bid Time Return, by Richard Matheson, best known for another book made into a movie, I Am Legend. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News Radio.
Here's your ESPN Radio 3-day forecast brought to you by Chief Bauer. Trust the experts at Cheap Hour Service Experts to keep you comfortable all year long, whether it's heating or cooling. Call the experts at 866-EXPERTS or visit them online at chiefbauer.com. Tonight, overcast, a low of 42. Wednesday, chance of rain, high 60, low of 49. Thunderstorms could get up an inch of rain around here, high 66, a low of 45. Right now, overcast, 55 degrees in Champaign-Urbana.
It is the Tay and J Show. Mike Carpenter in for Lon Tay. He's out on assignment. Lucas, tennis match today, so good luck to Lucas with Jeremy Warner on this Tuesday afternoon.
What's up, Carp?
Not much.
We got a busy show today, talking a lot of basketball. At 4:05, we'll talk to Mike Pegram, the founder of Peegs.com, about the Archie Miller hire.
That's Peegs.
Yes.
Okay.
Mike Pegram will join us at 4:05, talk about what they think of it over in Bloomington and kind of the expectations for him, how they think he'll recruit over there. We'll also talk a little bit of NBA draft, since we've seen a lot of these guys play in the tournament. Michael Weisenberg, NBADraft.net, will join us at 5:25. Also excited this hour to talk with Robert Smith, Chicago Simeon coach, at 3:30. They just finished runner-up this year, and he's a heck of a coach and a really good guy. And obviously he's been very friendly with the Illinois program. We'll ask him about the Brad Underwood hire. We'll chat a little bit about every time there's a new coach, Carp, at Illinois.
Can they recruit Chicago?
Can they recruit Chicago? And there were some interesting comments today, but it's kind of weird, Carp, that we're kind of settling into the normal schedule of this show. Like tomorrow we'll talk baseball, but we're kind of waiting on the staff and recruiting things to happen. But the coaching search is over, the week breaking it down, and Brad Underwood and the introductory press conference is over. We're kind of settling back in to a little bit of normalcy around here.
And you know what the good news is? Illinois, from what it all sounds like, the guys that had already committed look to be strong in their commitments to Illinois. And that was step number one, that if you get a coach in and you happen to keep this entire recruiting class, great. If you would have lost somebody, that's kind of the risk you take when you go out and get a guy. Yeah. But it always felt like, of course, Jamal Walker being the variable for that. Now, as an Illinois fan, it's hard not to get a little greedy. And what that leads to is what I would call a fun topic about when it comes to recruiting. And in this case, what we're going to talk to today about Chicago, which I understand is a tired narrative. But it will be.
I'm sick of talking about it.
No. And as you should be. And I'm sick of talking about it too. But at the same time, there's a little bit of optimism with Brad Underwood. And I think it comes down to this. If you win, they will be interested. Doesn't mean they're going to come.
Right.
But they'll be interested. And you just were not winning the last 5 years. So This idea that Illinois can't crack into it or that they're irrelevant up there, well, they were irrelevant because they weren't winning. And cracking into it is simply a matter of putting a product on the floor that would actually entice these kids to want to come down here.
Justin Breen, who's an Illinois grad, writes for DNAinfo.com up in Chicago, spoke with Nick Irvin about Brad Underwood. And here's a couple quotes from Nick Irvin, the Morgan Park coach. Obviously, they're a great program.
Io DeSunmo.
Io DeSunmo's there. They've had a lot of great players. Charlie Moore came through there. Marcus Levette came through there. So they're churning out a lot of top prospects. Here's a little bit about what Irvin said. Quote, as the time goes on, we'll see if Underwood can get players like some of the other coaches didn't do. The jury is still out if he can do it, but it comes down to who the kids like, who they respect, to get them to come to Champaign. It's going to take someone special to do it. Can they get the players like former Illini coach Jimmy Collins was able to do? He goes on, if you want talent, you have to find and pick the right person. If you want Chicago basketball players, he's going to need to go outside the box, and there are coaches in the public league who are good coaches. You should hire someone who knows the Chicago landscape. You have to do the research about who has the players, who has been around Chicago for a number of years, who understands these players. Every coach that comes to Illinois says they really want Chicago kids, but do they really want them? What do you make of those comments?
Well, I think Brad Underwood is in an interesting spot right here with Lamont Evans not coming as part of his staff. And I know that Underwood would like the best staff available. At the same time, maybe this grants you a little bit of leeway to have one of those three spots be simply for recruiting. And maybe that was the case no matter what.
I think that's the most important job of an assistant coach anyway. Yeah. I mean, you have guys on your support staff, and Brad Underwood's going to bring a lot of his Oklahoma State guys. The special assistant, the head coach or whatever, that's coming from Oklahoma State. He was a assistant coach for him at Stephen F. Austin. His video guy, those guys behind the scenes do a lot of that stuff as well. But yeah, I mean, they got a coach and they got to know the system, and they're the ones on the court. But, I mean, recruiting is the most important thing for most of those systems.
And with that being the case, I think there is some validity to what Nick Irvin is saying there, that if you actually want to crack into Chicago, let's look at the efforts that John Gross had. First, it would have been Isaac Chu, right? Who was here, and then I don't think even lasted a full season. It was a month?
Yeah, 2 months before he went to Marquette.
Paris Parham was your guy after that, your Chicago guy.
Yes, and that's what I want to point to, is Paris Parham was the Morgan Park High School head coach, right? He is a Chicago guy.
Right.
He is, he said, like, you got to get one of our family. Paris Parham is that guy. Yet he didn't get every player up there, but who are we talking about? During the John Gross era, here are the CPL kids, Chicago Public League kids, who went to Power 5 schools. Jabari Parker, Kendrick Nunn. You got Kendrick. Jaleel Okafor, Cliff Alexander, Paul White. You weren't going to get Jaleel. Paul White committed to Georgetown pretty early.
Yeah.
And Cliff Alexander, what more could you do? Right? 2015, DJ Williams, Marcus Levette, did everything you could for that kid. Ed Morrow, you didn't go after.
Right.
Right? 2016, Charlie Moore, did everything you could to get that kid twice. Zach Norvell, you kind of were loaded on the wings.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2017, none. So what are we referring to here?
You just struck a chord with my, I don't want to call it angst.
But you know what I mean? Like, Paris Parham was a Chicago guy. He was up there a lot.
I know. I'm just thinking real quick about roster construction. We have too many wings. Well, we probably won't have too many wings after a couple defections if we are to speculate. And then you don't have Zach Norvell, which I don't know how good or bad he would have been.
Right.
But it is frustrating to see another guy, we don't need him. We got LeBron Black. We don't need Ed Morrow.
You got DJ Williams. You took Jalen Tate, who didn't even belong in the Big Ten. You took Stan Simpson back in 2008. Like, what are you supposed to do?
No, I would agree. That's the risk, right? That is the risk in going out there and deliberately hiring a guy to be your Chicago guy.
Like, and he's basically saying hire Nick Irvin, right? Or hire Robert Smith, which sure. I can understand maybe, but is that going to open up the floodgates? Are you definitely going to get Ayo Dosunmu? Are you definitely going to get all these guys? I don't know. Like that. I mean, that's more risky than people, want to admit.
Right, and if they aren't getting the Chicago guys, what is their role?
Because Wayne McClain was here after you got all those guys, and then he didn't recruit anybody else. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, it's. I think it's more complicated than that. Now, I think you should have somebody with Chicago ties. Paris Parham was that guy. Maybe you need two of them. Maybe you need to have your head coach up there a little bit more. I don't know if John Gross was seen up there enough. But, I just don't know what has to happen. That's why I kind of want to ask Robert Smith. I don't want him to talk for Nick Irvin, right? But I want Robert Smith to explain, like, what is there a disconnect between Illinois and Chicago? There's not between him and Illinois, it seems like. But why is there this other than losing? If they weren't losing, Carp, I don't think we're talking about this. And, I don't think it's just missing on Chicago players because I just went over it.
Is there any way to hire one of these coaches with the assurance that player X is going to be delivered with that coach?
Now you're getting into the Shane Hireman, Brian Bowen thing, right?
Yeah,
why everyone wants Shane Hireman.
Well,
here.
right, but that's why if it were a Nick Irvin and all of a sudden Ayo thinks, I want to go play for Coach Irvin.
He has to be an assistant coach if you want to get him because
exactly.
He can't be a support staffer, then you can't recruit a kid. He's coached at the high school level for 2 years.
I have zero problem with that if the kid, in fact, is a package deal. And we see it right now with Missouri. Porter Sr. and the two Porter kids. We saw with Danny Manning back in the day, and that led to a title for Kansas. So I have no issues with that. And if you have two spots on the staff, the good news is that with Brad Underwood, I feel confident enough in the coaching acumen of that staff, even if a couple of those spots are strictly for recruiters.
But my point comes back to, who have you missed on that we're talking about? It's Jabari Parker, who went to Duke.
Right.
It's Jaleel Okafor, who went to Duke. It's Cliff Alexander, who went to Kansas. And then 2 point guards you went after, and Paris Parham went after these guys hard, Marcus Levette and Charlie Moore. That's a guy Irvin's, and he still didn't go there.
So you're saying that it's not worth the effort based on there just aren't many guys that have come out of the CPL over the last 10 years that have actually been worth it.
What I'm saying is, like, you had a Chicago guy here. Paris Parham was that, and he worked his butt off, and you still didn't get these kids. Is the simple answer just hiring Nick Irvin, or is it hiring one of these other guys? I don't think it's that simple.
Then the question is, hand in hand, assistant and head coach as a tandem, what was John Gross doing in all of this? Because early on, it certainly seemed to be that, yes, he was the hard worker going up there time and time again, but it seems like within the last few months, whether it be talking to Dion or other people, that was starting to fade.
And that's what I think it comes down to, is you have to build relationships, you have to be seen, you have to show that you care. right? You have to show that you're up there all the time. But you also got to recruit other areas. You can't just say, we're going all out for you, Chicago. And Chicago can't expect that.
And why do I get the feeling, too, that Brad Underwood is going to think, no, I'm not delegating that much time and resources into one area when I already have Texas connections, when I already have a St. Louis guy.
Well, you go after kids who fit what you want.
Right.
And Chicago doesn't have a lot of talent coming up, right? I mean, Ayo Dosunmu is definitely one. But you got to be seen up there. You got to show an effort up there. And I think that can be improved here. But it comes down to the coach showing effort, being good, convincing players his system. I don't know if John Gross and Paris were good enough at that. I think that's what it comes down to more than anything, because Coach K doesn't have a Chicago guy on his staff.
But see,
John Shire's suburban guy.
This may be more symptomatic.
Kansas doesn't have a Chicago guy on staff.
This may be more symptomatic of John Gross as a recruiter, because for the couple of good classes that he did pull in and the good pieces that he did bring to Illinois, there were a lot of number 2 finishes. And that wasn't just Chicago kids.
Who do you think is the highest ranked guy? Somebody was texting me back and forth with this morning.
That Gross got.
Oh, yeah. I'm going the consensus ratings, the consensus rankings, the index, RCIHoops.com. So it combines all of the top rankings.
Jalen Coleman lands
37th. Then who?
Kendrick
Nunn is actually third at 57th.
Was Malcolm ahead of that?
Malcolm was 70th.
Oh, LaRon Black would have been
LaRon
second.
Black, 46th.
Right.
So we talk about how great of a recruiter he was. Mm-hmm. I mean, he missed on a lot of his top targets.
That's it. So many number 2 finishes. And what that says to me is whether they were a Chicago kid like Jalen Brunson, not your CPL guy, but in the Chicago area saying no, it wasn't because I'm a Chicago kid and I'm not interested in John Gross, the Illinois coach. We saw this with Juwan Evans, Elijah Thomas. It didn't matter geographically where people were. You were finishing number 2. Jordan Goodwin to SLU. You were, and apparently, I guess you were in the top 2. We said Northwestern and SLU, whatever that means. But I think that might have more to do with John Gross. Now, the question is, Brad Underwood, we have wondered, because there's not a lot of track record to suggest he's this kind of recruiter. But we're in kind of a wait-and-see approach.
But do you think hiring just a Chicago Public League coach right now will fix all that?
No. And if anything, go back to Bill Self when he was here.
Mm-hmm.
He would have eventually gotten the Chicago guys. But
I mean, they shut out Juan Kruger after Jimmy Collins and get
right. It would have taken until his 4th or 5th year for Bill Self to start actually getting high-quality talent out of Chicago. Yeah. Now, we could say Dee Brown, Proviso East, and Luther Head from the Chicago area. I don't think CPL.
No.
Roger Powell, Joliet, that doesn't count. James Augustine, a suburb, that doesn't count. So it's
Sharon Collins, right?
Sharon Collins, Julian Wright.
Yeah, Julian Wright's South Suburbs, but yeah.
Okay, well, yeah.
South Side, Homewood Flossmoor.
That's the thing, is that it is a really unique time for Illinois basketball, where when you made this coaching change, you also had the benefit of a lot of downstate talent. You're keeping the ones that are already committed. You have some others out there that may be interested, and we'll get to Mark Smith here in a bit, because that will get very interesting. And
are you angsty about that now?
No, because
if you haven't heard, Kentucky has reached out.
Sure.
Duke has reached out before. Kansas has reached out before. But Derek Piper just tweeted out that Tom Izzo will be visiting tomorrow, I believe, and that Konzo Martin's visiting him tonight.
Well, think about this. Miles Bridges, what he did in year 1. Now, I know Mark Smith is not as big as Miles Bridges, but
he's not as good as Miles Bridges.
Very few are. But at the same time, you may have a hole there for a guy that is going to have to be a lead scorer for you.
Yeah.
And you pair him alongside Langford and Winston and Ward in that offense, and how can that not be attractive for Mark Smith?
But yeah, I mean, Izzo's attractive, Calipari. I mean, but if you're going to get good players, you got to beat some good schools to do it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole key.
And to think that this would have fallen this easily in her lap after the season Mark Smith had, he was going
it's
to get
never that easy. We've learned that with Marcus Lovett,
Charlie Moore. They were right in your back. I mean, Marcus Lovett was the situation where he just plopped onto your back
Mark Smith's the same thing.
Yeah. And you thought, oh, it's so easy. And while I am still optimistic, just a gut feeling, I don't have any sources like you and Derek do, but I'm optimistic about their chances of getting Mark Smith because of Brad Underwood and the style of play.
Yeah.
If he chooses to go elsewhere, it's hard to hold a grudge on a kid if he picks a Michigan State or Kentucky. Now, if it's Butler and Chris Holtman, that's where I start thinking, you got to close that out. If you're Illinois, I think you do.
Yeah. If you want to weigh in, you can. 359-2255. That's 217-359-2255. You can call us on the Jupiter's The Crossing phone line or text the Cheap Hour text line at 217-359-2255.
And Terry in Rockford did just that. What's up, Terry?
Tarp, how are you?
Good.
Here's my philosophy on Chicago. You want to recruit Chicago? I'm referring to Chicago proper.
Mm-hmm.
You want to recruit it? Win.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
I agree.
Win.
I think that's
Just
more.
win.
I think that's more important than hiring a CPO guy too.
I don't care about all the other crap. Who they got on their staff that can go up there. And Jeremy, you're right. Parham is from Chicago, and he knows that area. The reason they're not getting kids out of proper Chicago is because they don't win.
Yep.
When they start winning, they will get kids out of Chicago.
I agree with you.
Thanks, Terry.
It won't take any other assistant coach or anybody special. Kids will want to go there.
Appreciate the call, Terry.
Yeah, I mean, you need relationships, right? You got to have relationships, get in the door, get help along the way of doing this thing. But
and this isn't going to happen.
For me, it's like if John Gross would have won with the players he did recruit, which he was capable, like there's enough talent to win some games, Charlie Moore might have been more likely to come here. Or, another CPL kid maybe would have been a little bit more likely to come here. But they didn't miss on guys like that they definitely should have gotten, like Jaleel and Jabari. That's going to be tough.
And this will take time. I mean, again, going back to the Bill Self example, and I guess you were still coming off the heels of Jimmy Collins. At that point, it would have been 6 years before that, but that was still fresh enough in the minds of some Chicago coaches to not want to mess with Illinois. But I think this narrative has been perpetuated a lot, and we saw it on Brad Underwood's interview with 670 The Score. They have to, it's a token question.
Yeah.
They have to ask about Chicago. Well, the thing is, if Illinois had done its job in the last 10 years as a basketball program, if they had Thad Matta, and let's say that was the choice instead of Bruce Weber, and you have a decade's worth of success, this would not be a question being asked.
Yeah.
You would have found your way in there naturally.
And that's kind of what I want to ask Robert coming up, because obviously he had a good relationship. He's got a good relationship with Illinois, the program. But is it winning, or is it relationships, hiring a guy from up there? Like, what's more important? I bet he'll say winning. But that's what I'm interested to talk to him about. We'll also talk to him about DJ Williams. I want to ask him about how Kendrick Nunn's doing up at Oakland. So we'll talk about that coming up. If you want to weigh in, 359-2255. That's 217-359-2255 on the Jupiter's The Crossing phone line or the Chief Power text line. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search Tay and J Show. I tweet at J Warner Scout.
And I tweet at Fanboy Carp.
Download the WSJK app. Get our podcast at ESPNCU.com or find us in iTunes. That's all powered by GTPS Insurance. I see Tyler Knight and James Woodard. We have anybody else back there?
I think Harry is out today.
Daniel King's here as well.
Daniel was here. Hello,
Just
Daniel.
popped his head in there. So we got a busy show. Robert Smith, Chicago Simeon coach, up next. Mike Pegram, Peegs.com at 4:05. And Michael Weisenberg, NBADraft.net at 5:25.
It is the Tay and J Show.
An ESPN Radio Mike and Mike Extra Point.
The Raiders leaving and going to Las Vegas. I understand the city of Oakland has all kinds of financial problems. That stadium is extraordinarily outdated. And if they feel that this is the best move, I can't sit here from my chair and tell them not to do it. But I can say that at some point, when you move a franchise from one city to another, I don't care what anybody says. There's no way that the people who are being left behind can accept that as anything but a slap in the face, or even worse, like spit in the face. And so if you're going to spit in the face of San Diego, and you're going to spit in the face of St. Louis, and you're going to spit in the face of Oakland, all within the span of about 18 months, maybe it will have no impact. I wonder, though. I wonder if a little bit too much of this is not eventually going to become something that winds up backfiring on them to some degree. We'll see.
Hear more from Mike and Mike tomorrow morning on ESPN Radio.
O'Reilly. Save on your next oil change when you purchase 5 quarts of Castrol GTX conventional motor oil and a MicroGuard filter for $23.99. Or for higher mileage vehicles, upgrade to Castrol GTX high mileage and a MicroGuard filter for $24.99. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
This is Pete's yard, and Pete's happy that winter's finally over. Still, winter's damage is done and has left Pete's yard withered and weak. But Pete knows all he needs is Scott's Turf Builder Lawn Food. It greens and thickens lawns to help crowd out weeds. Guaranteed. Just 2 simple feedings, one now and one later this spring. So Pete can easily take his grass from hungry to healthy. This is a Scott's yard. Pick up Scott's Turf Builder Lawn Food today.
This is Eric Bolin with Provident Financial Group. Are you sure you're on track to reach your retirement goals? Wondering how much money you'll need to last your lifetime? Whether you're retiring in a few weeks or a few years, we can analyze your needs and create a plan that's right for you. Find us online at ProvidentFinancialGroupLLC.com. Securities and advisory services offered through Commonwealth Financial Network.
Provident, partnerships built on trust.
FINRA SIPC, the registered investment advisor.
ESPN 93.5 invites you on our annual bus trip to see the St. Louis Cardinals take on the world champion Chicago Cubs Wednesday, April 5th. And it's all brought to you by Rosati's Pizza in Urbana. Buy your bus and right field game day tickets for just $99. Or register to win a set of free tickets at Rosati's Pizza, 701 Gregory in Urbana. It's our annual bus trip to Busch Stadium in St. Louis to see the Cubs take on the Cardinals Wednesday, April 5th. Get information on the trip by calling 367-1195 or at ESPNCU.com today.
Are you looking for a new home or planning to refinance your existing home? Hi, this is Todd Durakan from First Federal Savings Bank of Champaign-Urbana, getting you and your home faster with loan closings in 30 days. Mortgage loans and refinancing that's fast, friendly, and local. We invite you to visit our experienced team of mortgage experts to find out how First Federal Savings Bank can help you with your loan closing in 30 days. For more information, visit 356bank.com. First Federal Savings Bank of Champaign-Urbana. Get what you want out of life. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Coach Mike Ditka is not just talking sports. What will he say next? Hear him here Monday and Friday mornings from 7:30 to 8 with Brother Johnny and me, Stevie J, on ESPN Radio 93.5.
326 from the Sports Center Update Studio. I'm James Woodard with your Sports Center Update, brought to you by Prairie View Landscaping. Email mypvdiscount@gmail.com for a free quote and get up to 25% off your 2017 lawn care. Register by March 30th to be entered to win a 55-inch LG Smart TV from Good Vibes. That's mypvdiscount@gmail.com. Four-star recruit Mark Smith drawing a lot of attention. That's according to IlliniInquirers.com. Derek Piper, Mizzou's Quanzo Martin, Michigan State's Tom Izzo, both scheduled to visit with Smith in home. Blackhawks blow a 4-1 lead, losing 5-4 in overtime to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Chicago holds the first spot in the West by 8 points. And on my final day here, I wore my Blackhawks and Cubs gear for Lon to be on assignment. I was trying to dig that in as much as I could before I took off. The Blues prevailed over the Coyotes 4-1, though. Blues are now 11 points clear of the Kings for the final wildcard spot in the West. The Bulls are off until Thursday. They're going to host the Cleveland Cavaliers.
They're still playing.
Are in full free-fall mode. The Cavaliers, not the Bulls. They keep trying to win. They're currently a half game out of the 8th seed and just good enough to get that and ruin all prospects of a future.
Why won't you die?
Well,
Bulls, not you, James.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, well, I feel like I have a little bit left to live for. The Bulls, however, should have been well dead months ago. Baseball, the White Sox trade flyer guy Peter Borges to the Tampa Bay Rays. That's a win no matter what because he didn't cost you anything. They're going to get cash or player to be named later. And the Cubs officially released Munenori Kawasaki. I'm James Woodard with your Sports Center Update.
Nice pronunciation.
Busey backs our neighbors with a solid promise to reinvest in our communities one project at a time. They're committed to helping students achieve their dreams of going to college through the Community Reinvestment Act, I call that the CRA, scholarships. UC will provide two $1,000 scholarships to support the academic endeavors of low to moderate income students with a desire to continue their higher education. To qualify for Busey scholarship, the applicant must be a resident of the county for the past 3 years, a high school graduate or equivalent, and eligible for admission at a college or university approved by the scholarship committee. Visit the CRA scholarship page on Busey.com to apply on or before April 30th. And Busey proudly helping students achieve their dreams, providing over $100,000 over the last 14 years through the CRA scholarship loan. Busey is a proud partner for purpose and progress in the communities they serve. Visit Busey.com or stop by one of their convenient locations today.
It is the Tay and J Show. He's Michael Carpenter filling in for Lon Tay. I'm Jeremy Warner. If you want to weigh in, you can. You can text the Cheap Hour text line at 217-359-2255. That's 359-2255. We're efforting Robert Smith, Simeon coach from Chicago. Simeon, talk a little bit about his team this year, and Brad Underwood, hire as we go along. We'll talk a little bit of Big Ten basketball. Mike Pegram, Peegs.com, will join us at 4:05, and we'll kind of look ahead to the Big Ten season ahead, because now it's the off season. We'll see who's going to leave, who's going to not, and Carp kind of look ahead to see who the favorites are, who's going to improve, who's going to get worse.
Should I contact Arthur A.G. and set up an interview with him? I was watching Hoop Dreams on Sunday night.
Did you? That's probably my favorite sports movie.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, and I caught it right at the moment. The last 30 minutes of the movie where they come down to Champaign. Arthur A.G.'s Marshall team does, and how big of a deal it was for them. And I do wonder, perhaps, then this is just one negative of losing that state title game to Peoria, is, did you lose a little bit of clout? Just things like that. I mean, subconsciously, at least, Champaign is not the destination it used to be for high school kids.
And at that time, they were still kind of flying high.
Exactly.
Off of
because I think Hoop Dreams at that point would have been 90-91. Right. So it would have been post-probation and everything, but you were still 2 years removed from the flying lineup.
Let's get to the Jupiter's at the Crossing phone line. Don't forget, Tuesdays get half off large pizzas all day at Jupiter's at the Crossing. Joining us now is Robert Smith, Chicago Simeon coach. We appreciate your time, Coach. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
Doing great. Well, congrats on the runner-up finish, Coach. Another great season for you guys at Simeon. What stood out about this year's team?
Just how they came together as a team. No one really gave us a shot, at the beginning of the year to even be in this predicament to get this far. And those guys came together and became to be a team and accomplished most of their goals, but just, fell short in the championship game.
Coach, we have Joe Hendrickson on a lot. I know you know him pretty well. And I kept asking him, why didn't the in-state schools get all over him, especially in the Missouri Valley? I know he's going to UTEP, and I think they got a steal. That kid's a winner.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's won over 100 games at Simeon, and, in his 4 years playing on the sophomore team and varsity, we won 3 city championships and made it downstate 2 years. So, he's just a warrior, and kind of fights a little bit because of his size, and people don't think he can do a lot of stuff. So, it's great. It was great to have him, as the leader this year. And I think more schools in state should have been recruiting him, but I think UTEP got a steal and gonna have a good player.
Coach, with all the talent you get there, how do you get those kids to consistently buy in to that kind of team program identity?
It started years ago. It didn't really start with me. It started with Coach Hamrick when he was there. There's no one bigger than the team. We just want to win. So guys just have to buy into, sharing the wealth, understanding what the ultimate goal is, and just playing together, and playing basketball the right way.
Robert Smith, Chicago Simeon head coach, joining us on the Tay and J Show. And Illinois has a new coach of its own. What are your initial thoughts on the Brad Underwood hire?
I don't really know because I don't know him. It's kind of sad, but I don't know him at all. I haven't even spoke to him yet, so I don't know. People have been saying some good things about him, but I don't know much about him at all.
How important, Coach, is then the assistant coach hires for Illinois to recruit a city like Chicago? We always bring it up whenever a new coach comes in, but how important is that assistant staff since, he is kind of a guy who's been at Texas and, then at South Carolina and Kansas State?
Well, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge on who he brings in. That guy's going to have to really understand the city of Chicago. He's going to have to be willing to work. But just going in past years, it's not just going to be that assistant. The head coach is going to have to be in as well. I think Parrish Parham did a great job of coming in, but, you got to have a head coach there with you and fighting and battling in the streets of Chicago just as well as the assistant. So I think that's something that really has to be done.
And just before you hopped on, Coach, we were talking about, how important is it for Illinois to get that assistant that does have the Chicago ties, but you hit on it, that the head coach is really still the figurehead for this program. What would be some of the things that Brad Underwood would have to do, even before next basketball season started, to kind of get his name out there a little bit more? I know he's not the splashiest of hires, but how does he have to sell himself and this program?
Well, he had to come in and just really take over. Bill Self did a great job. Lon Kruger, they did a great job of coming inside of Chicago and, just putting their foot down, and they were the face. It wasn't more so the assistant coaches. It was more so those guys. They came in and They was in the gyms. They got to know the coaches. They got to know the neighborhoods. They knew everything that was going on inside of Chicago. And the assistant coaches did a great job as well, but they were here. And, just having somebody here that guys can know and see, is really good. It just helps so much.
He's Robert Smith, Chicago Simeon coach. You've had a couple former Illini come here. We'll ask you about those guys as well. But we were kind of talking about if Illinois is winning, are we talking about this as much, Coach, about getting Illinois struggling to get some top kids in Chicago? How much has to do with them just not winning enough?
Well, that's probably the biggest thing. Guys want to be in a winning program. They don't want to go places and try to start it up, or try to help it get to that point. But I think that, Illinois is a gold mine. I think you've got the best basketball players. I mean, you have 47 guys from the state of Illinois playing college, playing the NCAA tournament this year. Now, of course, all those guys cannot go to Illinois, but I mean, if you get 5 or 6 of those guys, you got a team, you got a tournament team. So I think that's huge. Just getting in here and getting some guys from Chicago. Everybody can't come from Chicago. Right? It's some great basketball being played down south of Illinois, and there's basketball played all over the country. But you got to have some guys from in-state that's going to pursue some of these other guys who see that to come. And in the years when Lou Henson was there, that's what it was. Those guys saw other guys going there, so they went. Jimmy Collins did a great job here in Chicago, and Lou Henson was, like I said, in Chicago. Everybody knew who he was. The players and the coaches knew who he was, not just the coaches. So that's something that's going to be huge. But just got to get those guys here and be able to, put their foot down.
You mentioned how a lot of these recruits, they don't want to have to be the one to start up a program, and that is a lot of pressure to put on the shoulders of a 18-year-old kid. Hey, make us good again. But other than winning, going to a winning program, which I would assume would be at the top of the list for many of these kids, what would be the second most important thing that they're looking for? Would it be NBA aspirations that this, Coach X has put this many guys in the league, or are there other factors that you would put just behind having a winning program?
Well, that's definitely, guys want to get to the next level. I mean, those kids not just going to Kentucky just because Calipari said come there. His track record proves that, every year he's sending these guys to the NBA. So that has to happen. I mean, I don't know the numbers right now of Illinois, but I don't know if there's any guys right now after Darren and, Augustine and some other guys that's in the NBA. So that's huge, to say, well, who do you have in the NBA? I mean, I know that they show kids that all the time. I know for Evan, that was huge with him. With Coach Floyd, he was able to say, hey, look, I took guys who were not top 100 guys. Hey, they played in the NBA for 7, 8 to 10 years. Hey, this could possibly be you. And that was one of his selling points to get the kid to come to UTEP. So I know that is, part of it because that's those kids' dream. And if you don't have the body of work, then it's too hard to just get them to come there.
We appreciate Robert Smith's time, Chicago Simeon coach. And, Coach, I think we've talked about this before on the show. And is this just an Illinois thing that we always talk about this with Chicago? Or does this come up with DePaul, Illinois State, Northwestern, too? I mean, do people talk about the same things about getting the city kids, or is it more about Illinois?
Well, I think it's all over the state. I'm not for sure the numbers myself, but, when you look at it and you look at most of the schools, I think DePaul is, they pretty much have some guys from Chicago or have had some, in the past couple of years. So, but I just think getting the guys to stay at home is huge for the coaches. I don't know what the problem is. I wish I had the solution because, I'm an in-state guy and I want to, support all of the schools in-state and I want our schools to win. I love college basketball, but I would love to see Illinois or Illinois State or DePaul playing in the Final Four on Saturday, but that's just not happening. So I just don't know, exactly what it is about the in-state schools. And a lot of kids, they do want to get away.
Yeah.
They do want to get away, and that is part of it as well. So, but we have some great facilities here. We have some great places, that kids can stay at home and make this, basketball here what it used to be or what it could be.
Coach, before we let you go, I want to ask you quick about some of your guys who have played here. DJ Williams is going to be a junior. Obviously hasn't played as much as he probably hopes, but what do you think is key for his progress and turning into that kind of Big Ten player that we all envision him to be?
Yeah, you had to get on the floor first. Yeah. You never know what he's going to be if he's not playing. So he just needs the opportunity. You know, I mean, it's not one-sided. I'm pretty sure he has to do some other things to get out there as well. But, I mean, when you got a top 100 kid, it's just hard to sit him, you know, on the bench and just have him stuck there. I mean, you got to give him an opportunity. But, you know, I'm not the coach.
Yep.
I'm not at practice. So I don't know exactly what the whole deal is. You know, I entrust in the coaches when I send the kids there that they're going to take care of them, make sure that they, you know, do what they're supposed to do with them. But it's also a two-way street. Those guys got to definitely do what they're supposed to do as well. So I'm looking for good things for DJ, you know, the next 2 years. Hopefully he gets that opportunity. You know, I'm really proud of Jalen Tate, you know, of how he, you know, handled the whole situation about starting and then not really playing at all. You know, he still was a great teammate, came to practice every day, did whatever they asked him to do. You know, and that's just a, you know, part of our program. You know, he understands he's going to get his degree, you know, and that's the big thing. When we talked, it was like more about him graduating and, you know, going on with his career and whatever that may be. So those guys, they did a great job while they was there. You know, Simeon has always been a part of Illinois, and hopefully we can continue that. We just got to, you know, build, you know, some better relationships, I guess. I don't know. I mean, you have a guy here for 2 weeks and half the city coaches haven't talked to him yet, so I don't know how kind of relationship that's building.
Okay. So he's got to make more of an effort then, you're saying?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we've been here for 2 weeks. I mean, if it was me, I would have been at the state championship after I got hired. That's my personal opinion, to show my face and say, hey, look, here I go. I'm off and running, and I'm going to take this thing to the next level. But I don't know his, you know, what he had to do. That's just me talking as if I was the coach. But, I mean, a lot of people I talk to say we got a great guy. You know, he knows what he's doing. He is a good hire. So whatever support I can have for him, I don't have a problem with supporting it. I mean, I would love for Illinois to be in a national championship soon.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about one more guy, and that's Kendrick Nunn. Obviously, you know, didn't end well here, but he's at Oakland. How's he doing up there, Coach?
He's doing great.
Yeah.
You know, I talk to him a lot, you know, because his dad works at the school with me, so I talk to him a lot. Just a tough deal, you know, for him. I think if he was at Illinois, they'd make the tournament. You know, they was missing that guy. That's my personal thing. I may be a little biased, but I just think with him, they make the tournament. But he's doing well. I mean, they moved him over, and he's playing a little bit more point guard down there, so they're giving him an opportunity to try to get to the next level. But he's doing well. He's going to graduate also in May, so that's good. So he's doing good. I mean, just like I told him, it's a second opportunity and a second chance, and you just got to make the best of it.
Coach Robert Smith, Chicago Simeon coach. We appreciate your time, Coach, and good luck this summer and going into next season.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good stuff with Robert Smith, Chicago Simeon coach. I don't want him to have to speak for everybody up in Chicago, but given that he's had a good relationship with Illinois in the past, I think it's interesting hearing from that guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, Brad Underwood's had a ridiculous schedule the last couple of weeks. So if he's not reaching out to all these coaches, I can kind of get it. It's a whirlwind, but that is something like, you know, a text or a phone call to squeeze into a schedule. Sometimes they just want that, you know, some of these big programs. But he's obviously got some work to do.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of work to do there, and hiring your staff is more important right now, I think, than texting them or giving them a message. But some people want that right away.
Well, and I'm going back and forth on this because as a city, I understand the pride that Chicago takes in their basketball. And, you know, in a way, it is a commodity. I mean, every year there is X amount of guys that come out of that area. They go to Power 5 schools, and usually there's a couple of them that are really high-level athletes that you know are going to be in the NBA in the future. At the same time, this is why I can never be a coach. The sensitivity of...
Yeah, and you know what? Robert is a good dude.
Yeah.
He's a great dude.
But it is interesting to think, okay, whether it be Simeon or any CPL school, the guy was hired 2 weeks ago. Now, maybe back in Jimmy Collins' era or something like that, there was a continuous line of conversation between Champaign and Chicago. Yeah. That was the norm, and that was what became expected. And anything less of that would have been viewed as disrespectful.
But it's obvious there is even with Robert there, who's been, you know, very generous to the Illinois program. He roots for Illinois. There's a disconnect.
Yeah.
That whether it's Brad Underwood's fault or it's Chicago's fault or it's John Gross's fault, it's got to be fixed a little bit, that there's just this kind of disconnect there. And from him, it sounded like John Gross wasn't there enough. That Paris Palmer was there all the time. but John Gross was not there enough talking with them, forming relationships with them. He worked his butt off. John was at a lot of places, but it sounds like there just wasn't that trust there that Brad Underwood's got to build.
Yeah.
That even if you don't want that kid, at least you can be honest with them and say, hey, he's not a fit here, but we still love you guys. We appreciate you guys, that kind of thing. It's part of recruiting. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it either.
No. I would absolutely hate that. I would hate having to feel like I need to appease people or make sure that they're taken care of.
Also have to be strong enough to say, listen, no. Right?
Yes.
And that's what I think Bill Self kind of had, and he was talking about that.
Well, I think Brad Underwood has that part down.
Yes.
I don't think he has the cute, cuddly, warm and fuzzy thing down.
Recruit good players. I don't care where they're from.
Exactly.
No one cares that Darren Williams was from Texas.
Make yourself attractive, too, as a program.
No one cares Corey Bradford was from Memphis.
Make it get Illinois to a point, because there were some lofty things said at Underwood's introduction, and national championship was thrown out. Even Josh Whitman, when he announced the hiring of Brad Underwood. And, yeah, that might seem a little bit crazy, but at the same time, is it possible? Yes, it's possible. But here's what you do. Just get yourself to a point where you're consistently in the top 4 or 5 in the Big Ten, where you win a title or two, and you will make yourself attractive again.
Even Coach Smith was saying that.
Yeah, exactly. So
we're not talking about this much if you're winning.
Well, yeah, and it was even something where he said, it's been 2 weeks, haven't heard from him. And I'm thinking, if he goes up there and takes a visit to Simeon in the next week or two and has a nice sit-down chat, everything's fine.
Yeah.
But it's that smoothing over thing, that schmoozing that I would hate.
I think I tell coaches this all the time. You're crazy.
I don't get
You're
it.
crazy to be in this business. And that's why when people say like Billy Donovan to Indiana or Brad Stevens, like, why? I get that NBA egos are difficult sometimes, but you don't have to beg 15, 18-year-olds and their high school coaches or their parents or all that kind of stuff. Think
about not just that. It's the donors and the boosters. You're always schmoozing. And I will say,
with the head coach, you're just, schmoozing 12 players on a roster. Yeah. Right? Massaging that however you do and making sure your GM and owner are happy.
And that's why, it's true. And that's why, in a way, the Lovey thing was refreshing, because it's like, he's going to just coach. He's here to coach. And sorry, quarterback Love, he might not be accessible like previous guys, but he just wants to coach.
You know what? And I think Underwood, I hope, has that personality.
Well,
if your kids or if you're not open to us, then we'll go find players and we'll win. And if you want to come join it, come join it. And that's his task now, is to repair those relationships or find players elsewhere.
Yeah. And this is where it's advantageous. You have this downstate talent. You can potentially immediately win next year with the guys from downstate. And then just get back to that 20-plus wins a year, making the tournament. All of a sudden, you will be back in play for those really good players out of there. Because keep in mind, when Kendrick Nunn and Malcolm's down south, when Kendrick Nunn committed to Illinois, it was a new coach. There was not a lot of success that Bruce Weber had the past 4 or 5 years. There was nothing to say that Illinois was a surefire Big Ten title contender in the next year or two. But you were still at a level where he was interested. It will not take that much.
When were the title games? Was Underwood in the tournament? He might have still been coaching at Oklahoma State.
Okay, so when would this have been?
I didn't
the high school time. Okay, so that would have been...
Yeah, the same weekend as the NCAA tournament when Underwood was just getting the job.
Okay, when did Mark Smith play that super sectional in Bloomington?
That was the Tuesday before the state titles, right? But
there was an Illinois game that night.
Break. No, I'm talking about Underwood was coaching the NCAA tournament with Oklahoma State, I think, still. We'll get that over the break.
Okay, we will
figure that out. But if you want to weigh in, 359-2255, that's 217-359-2255. You can call us on the Jupiter's The Crossing phone line or text the Cheap Hour text line. I do want to say this. I really appreciate Coach Smith coming on, because I bet he didn't want to. But he's a good guy, and he does want to, he's open and honest about
Why
these
would
things.
you think he wouldn't want to?
Because he knows he's going to answer these questions. Right?
And
be
that
a
he has to come
spokesperson
on
for Chicago.
Okay, I get that, yeah.
Right? And maybe that's a little unfair, but I think he's the guy to talk to because he's been there for a long time. I do think he's a good guy. This program, Simeon in Illinois, has a relationship. So I think it's interesting getting his perspective. And whether people agree with it or not, that's how people feel in Chicago. And I think there are some reasons, some validations behind that with John Gross maybe not being up there enough. With Bruce Weber he was up there a lot, Bruce was, but the relationship just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And then the winning. It's a big part of it.
We get Gene Pingatore on tomorrow. Yeah. I guess that's not really CPL.
I guess we should probably talk to somebody in St. Louis because they got the talent right now.
Yeah, true.
359-2255 if you want to weigh in.
It is the Tay and J Show.
When an accident occurs, you want to ensure your car is being taken care of by the best of the best. According to industry statistics, Tim's Auto Body is among the top 10% of collision repair businesses in the country. Major car brands have been quoted as saying that they're in an elite league as best in class when it comes to a business operation. Tim's Auto Body has been recognized nationally for their consistent high level of service and meeting customers' needs. With the complexity of today's vehicles, obtaining a certified collision center from some of the top manufacturers ensures Tim's Auto Body is up to date on all of the industry standards, as well as keeping their staff educated on all of the changes in the vehicle industry. Tim's Auto Body in Champaign. Why trust the safety of your vehicle with anyone else? Visit Tim's Auto Body at 701 North Madison, Champaign, or call 607-0119. Go to timtapman.com for more details.
Tuesdays can't get any respect. Every week it's like, I can't believe it's only Tuesday. No one ever asks, how was your Tuesday? But now there is something exciting about Tuesday. The Tune-Up Tuesday sale at Chief Bauer Service Experts. Get an extra $10 off our lowest sale price on an AC Precision tune-up. That means you'll get a $120 tune-up for only $59 when you book online today at chiefbauer.com. The Tune-Up Tuesday sale at Chief Bauer Service Experts. Take that, Saturday. Guidance, trust, protection, service. It's the mantra of GTPS Insurance. When you work with GTPS, you'll never have to call an 800 number in a different state. You deal with people who live and work in our community and know it's important to your business. GTPS is your local source for business insurance, property, general liability, workers' compensation, and group health insurance, and they'll work with you to formulate the best package for the needs of you and your business. Contact a GTPS insurance agent today at 359-9000 or visit online at gtpsinsurance.com.
Sure, we've been called a mom and pop store. We take it as a compliment. After all, we are family owned and operated with 2 generations actively involved, and 5 of our team members have been with us for around 20 years each or longer. We run our business with old-fashioned customer service as our foundation, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Add our great selection of hand-picked mattresses, all proudly made in the USA at guaranteed lowest prices, and we're sure you won't find a better deal anywhere. Visit us and experience the Illini mattress difference today.
As the leader in fire protection and security systems for industrial, commercial, and residential buildings, MatGo features exceptional protection. MatGo installs, maintains, and inspects fire sprinklers, alarms, CCTV, security systems, and access-controlled systems. Their vigilance is a must-have priority to protect your assets. MatGo's digital monitoring and veteran personnel are your best security investment. Their 24-hour emergency service ensures that you are covered at all times. Contact MatGo at matgofire.com.
When you're heading home, Tay and J are on your way talking sports. Weekday afternoons 3 to 6 here on ESPN Radio 93.5.
Blink 182, Down. Is this a newer Blink song? Or?
No, this was like early 2000.
Okay. Mike Carpenter with Jeremy Warner, Tay and J Show. My first high school band, we had about 4 Blink songs that we played. But they were all much slower than the way they played.
And I remember Blink came out and they opened for Green Day.
Speaking of which.
Right. And then Blink got so big that Green Day, one of the biggest bands in the 90s, opened for them.
Whoa.
On a tour.
Had to... Oof.
Right? Like, because Green Day kind of like, just kind of went down.
Pre-American Idiot.
They had that Minority album, right?
Yeah, it was Nimrod and then another one and Insomniac.
Yeah, and they just weren't as popular, right? Yeah. And then Blink just took off.
Now, it was Tonight is Green Day, right?
Yeah, it's Green Day.
Yeah, tons of trucks and everything, and I saw people camping out, which I'm guessing maybe there's for general admission kind of thing. But you were planning, thinking about going. I was thinking about going,
but with a kid, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Dang kid.
I'm not going to go. Like if someone said, here's a pair of tickets, I'd say, oh, okay. But I'm not a big enough Green Day fan to probably spend $40 or whatever.
I'd go see him.
Let's see. We
for
had
that dang kid. But we did look it up that, Robert Smith, and again, I really appreciate him coming on just to give some perspective.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to know what people up there are feeling, right, about Illinois. And obviously, he doesn't know Brad Underwood. Said he doesn't know him, and that he hasn't heard from him, and that he needs to get to know them. Brad Underwood needs to get to know the people up in Chicago, but also that he's heard good things about Brad Underwood. So I think it's important for them to get that relationship going. He did say that Brad Underwood should have been at the state title game. He got hired the same day of the state title game.
Okay.
So he was going back and forth to Oklahoma State. And
he still could have been there, Jeremy. He still could have been there.
I don't know if Robert knows that.
I know.
But if you're going to say it, you probably should have known it.
Well,
but I just wanted to correct that.
But you know what it is? I think what it speaks to is that if you're a Chicago coach, your mindset may lead you to the more negative outcome if it's anything to do with the Illinois coach. So in other words, over all this time where I don't want to call it a toxic relationship, but you could certainly call it one that has not been advantageous for both parties, that in the case of Coach Smith, he defaulted mentally to this idea that, well, I mean, he wasn't even in the state title game, as opposed to giving him the benefit, or giving Illinois basketball, for that matter, the benefit of the doubt.
Right. And he said Paris did a good job up there, but the head coach is more important.
Yeah.
Right. And John Gross, that seems to be a misstep on his part. But again, I kind of go back to all the recruits that have come out of Chicago Public League. Levette and Charlie Moore are the ones that hurt.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you recruited them hard. Maybe John Gross wasn't there enough. Right? Sounds like Paris was. Paris coached Morgan Park back in 2007 or whatever it was. And then you go to Jabari and Jaleel and Cliff, and it's like, well, Duke and Kansas, what are you going to do?
That was 2013. By the way, and maybe you guys touch on this, but I think yesterday, 12 years ago yesterday, was the Darren Williams Arizona comeback.
Yeah, I thought about playing it again, but I'm like,
we do that every year.
It's 12 years ago.
I know.
Right? I know it makes people happy to think about, but it's almost like depressing at this point.
Here's how depressing it is. Growing up, the Final Four of '89, to me, was like this mythical thing.
I thought of this too, Carm. I did.
So you're telling me that 12 years after the Final Four, what was that, 2001?
Yep.
Maybe Elite Eight, right?
Yeah.
You were relevant again.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just...
And you were making tournaments.
You were, exactly.
Right.
So that is such a far different 12-year slice.
Here's what I thought of. I went 89 to 2005 was 16 years.
Mm-hmm. That means we're 4 years away.
We're 4 years away from being that far away.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
oh, I see what you're saying.
That
we
makes
would
you feel old.
No, you're
it?
right, because in 2005, when they were talking about who would win, and then they're going to talk to the 89 guys, they're like, oh, that's great. They found the old gang.
Yeah.
It's like, wait. We're getting to that point where when Big Ten Elite is interviewing Roger Powell, he's going to have a cane. Probably not. Roger's in great shape. Nick Smith might need one just because he's so tall.
It's a fashion statement, I guess.
But by the way, Roy Williams, they had some footage of him down in Memphis. He has a cane now. But
yeah, he's had some knee surgeries.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
That checkered coat looks good.
Yeah.
He's had a heck of a career at UNC. That Matt Doherty, man. Screwed it all up.
Screwed everything up for everybody. Really, we think Kansas was fine with Roy Williams.
If Juan had like the Steve Buscemi and Billy Madison list, I think Matt Doherty's at the top.
Matt Doherty's probably at the top of that. Hey, coming up next hour, we have Mike Pegram from Peegs.com. We're going to talk about Archie Miller to Indiana. It is the Tay and J Show.
The season for spring cleaning is here. Freshen up your finances with Busey. Review your budget, pay down debt, and get organized. With Bill Pay from Busey, see and pay all of your bills through eBank. Plus, the Busey mobile app puts your account at your fingertips. For additional resources to spring clean your finances, visit Busey.com or stop by one of our many convenient locations today. Busey, your dream, our promise. Member FDIC.
Prairie View Landscaping is continuing their 25th anniversary celebration by giving away a 55-inch LG Smart TV from Good Vibes. Email mypvdiscount@gmail.com for a free quote, and you can get up to 25% off your 2017 lawn care. That's mypvdiscount@gmail.com. When you do, you'll be registered to win a 55-inch LG Smart TV from Good Vibes just in time for the Final Four. mypvdiscount@gmail.com. That's mypvdiscount@gmail.com.
Hi, it's Corey with Max Twin City Recycling. We pride ourselves on giving the area an outlet to recycle and get paid for their unwanted metals. We're taking our community focus a step further with our Recycling for a Cause program. Each month, Max Twin City will choose a different local charity to feature in an effort to raise money for those causes. Visit maxrecycling.com for a complete list of program details.
Starting it over is what we do at Max Twin City Recycling.
Winning can be
fun, and we love giving away free stuff, but we want to make sure it's fair for everyone. So here are the rules when competing to win on ESPN 93.5. No purchase necessary. Prize must be collected within 30 days during business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 2702 Boulder in Urbana. ESPN Radio assumes no liability due to circumstances beyond our control, and any prize may be substituted with a prize of equal or greater value. Winners are liable for any taxes, tips, or other miscellaneous charges associated with the prize. All contestants must have a valid ID and social security number. Our judges' decisions are final and reserve the right to end any contest at any time for any reason without notice. In the event that a contestant is found to be ineligible for a prize, said prize will not be awarded. And if you win, we reserve the right to use your likeness or voice on the radio or online, and any winners must wait 30 days to win again. Get a complete list of rules and more information on any contest on ESPN Radio at ESPNCU.com. Those are the rules, and good luck from ESPN 93.5.
Live from the Habib BPC studios, this is WSJK Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Live from New York, the Fox Report.
And Lisa Brady, vowing to bring back coal jobs.
I made my promise, and I keep my promise.
President Trump signing executive orders aimed at undoing what President Obama did on climate change, including emissions restrictions at coal-fired power plants.
Perhaps no single regulation threatens our miners, energy workers, and companies more than this crushing attack on American industry.
New EPA Chief Scott Pruitt says the president is setting a new course, both pro-environment and pro-jobs. Democrats say it's about climate denial.
The American people should know that this moment of national embarrassment is brought to you by the fossil fuel industry.
Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Fox Business Network's Blake Berman.
The executive director of the Sierra Club also putting out a statement that calls this the single greatest attack on climate action in the history of the U.S.
At least 16 attorneys general already telling the president in so many words, see you in court. Democrats also urging Republicans to drop the effort to repeal Obamacare.
We Democrats are ready and able, willing to work with the president to expand coverage and lower the cost of health care for the American people.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, House Speaker Paul Ryan.
I have talked about the need to go from being an opposition party to being a proposition party and a governing party. It may take a little bit more time, but we're certainly listening, and we're going to get there.
He says Republicans are united around an agenda that still includes repealing Obamacare. Ryan today also rejecting calls for the Intelligence Committee chair to step down from leading the Russia probe. Devin Nunes under mounting pressure from Democrats.
I don't think that's any different politics than they're normally up to.
He's accused of being too close to the White House. Consumer confidence hits a 16-year high, and Wall Street rallies. The Dow up 150. On the Fox Report, fair and balanced.
Looks like some cable and phone companies are trying to sell home security. But when a burglar sees one of their signs in the front yard, what does it say? Oh, wow, this home has 599 channels. Or, oh, these guys have high-speed internet. But the ADT sign, it says, this family trusts the company whose name means security. So beat it. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes.
Learn more at ADT.com and to see licensing and terms and conditions.
Wesley had IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Coming after my house, my car. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
Wesley called Optima Tax Relief.
Oh, they were great people. Optima Tax. They know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-567-2261. 800-567-2261.
Optima Tax Relief.
The top American general in Iraq says a coalition airstrike probably played a role in killing more than 100 civilians in ISIS-held Mosul earlier this month.
But Lieutenant General Stephen Townsend told Pentagon reporters from Baghdad he thinks ISIS lured the civilians into a building to use them as human shields.
It's not a war crime to accidentally kill civilians. It's unfortunate, but it's not a crime because these soldiers have to make these decisions in seconds sometimes, in circumstances that you cannot imagine unless you've experienced them.
Townsend thinks ISIS booby traps inside the building helped set off secondary explosions, leading to more civilians being killed.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson at the Pentagon. Townsend also says the U.S. military never conducts a strike based on one piece of intelligence. Tennessee investigators making another appeal to the 50-year-old fired teacher believed to be with a 15-year-old girl.
This is not a fairy tale. This is a case of kidnapping. And we remain gravely concerned for the well-being of this young girl.
Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Director Mark Gwynn today marks 2 weeks since the Amber Alert was issued for Elizabeth Thomas. Some are classics. Donkey Kong, one of 12 finalists for the video game Hall of Fame.
There's also Pokemon.
The very best, like no one ever was.
Wii Sports, Final Fantasy VII, Halo Combat Evolved, Microsoft Windows Solitaire, Myst, Portal, Resident Evil, Street Fighter II, Tomb Raider, and Mortal Kombat. Get over here. The Hall of Fame's at the Strong Museum in Rochester, New York, with finalists selected from nominations from around the world and winners chosen by a committee of video game scholars and journalists.
Fox Radio's Chris Foster. This year's class will be inducted in May. In New York, I'm Lisa Brady on Fox News Radio.
Get over here.
Well, Mortal Kombat.
Did everybody pick Scorpion?
I think Scorpion. Sub-Zero was the first one he played with because he could freeze people.
Raiden.
And then Street Fighter had the green guy with the long arms.
Yes.
With the orange hair.
Started with a B.
Bathra?
Bazakra?
I don't know. Could someone text 359-2255 green guy in Street Fighter?
All right, intern, this is your moment to shine.
Yeah.
Look up the green guy from Street Fighter. Here's your ESPN Radio 3-day forecast brought to you by Chief Bauer. Trust the experts at Chief Bauer Service Experts to keep you comfortable all year long. Call 866-EXPERTS or visit them online at chiefbauer.com. Blanca, that's it.
That was it.
Mostly cloudy, low of 42. Tonight, Wednesday, chance of rain, high 60, low of 49. Thursday, warm, but thunderstorms, high 65, low of 45. Right now, overcast, 56 degrees in Champaign-Urbana.
The state of Indiana. The state of Indiana, in many ways, is me. It's how I grew up. I'm the son of a coach who sat around all day long with a ball in his hands from about 5 or 6 years old. And the only thing that was ever preached to me was you have to outwork everyone. You know, how you treat people, especially the ones that can do nothing for you, you know, that really is what it's about.
Archie Miller, the new head coach of Indiana basketball, a big hire, and they were just introduced him yesterday. Fred Glass gets his guy, a name that has been kind of thrown around for a few coaching cycles, but Indiana gets the big fish in the big pond.
Yeah, let's get to the Jupiter's the Crossing phone line and talk about it. Don't forget, Tuesdays, get half off Arch Pizzas all day at Jupiter's at the Crossing. Mike Pegram, Pigs.com, founder of that great website on the Scout.com website, is joining us now. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing well, guys. Glad to be here.
Yeah, what'd you think of the Archie press conference yesterday? How do you think he did?
You know, I thought he did a really good job of saying why he's a good fit for the job. You know, he's not an Indiana guy, not an IU guy, but he really marketed why his personality is a good fit for the job, and you know, it was more of a press conference of information and a little bit of X's and O's and things like that kind of appeal to the Hoosier fan base a little bit more than kind of the fluff that you might see in a hiring press conference. So it went over pretty well.
What'd you learn about this process with Indiana? I mean, how did this thing go? Everyone was kind of focused on Alford and Billy Donovan. What have we learned about the process in the last couple of days?
Well, I think that you know, Alford was definitely on the radar, but through the kind of the due diligence process, you know, he didn't come through squeaky clean, and maybe not the perfect fit that they were looking for. And I think Archie was, you know, he was right up there. He was a logical pick all along, and through the kind of vetting process, he was right there. And I think he had a real good communication with Fred Glass. And like we talked about, he has a good fit personality, Midwest guy. You know, we're just a couple hours from Bloomington, and you know, I think that they narrowed it up because we thought it might go another week or so, but I think Fred found his man pretty quickly. And, Archie was waiting for an elite kind of job. He could have left in the last few years for a lot of things, but this was kind of the job he was waiting for. So things happened rather quickly here in the last few days.
Mike Pegram from Peegs.com and also on Twitter at Peegs. That's Peegs. And I know that Fred Glass in his press conference announcing the firing of Tom Crean, he made reference to winning a title again, and then after that following that up with a few more. And some people may have thought, well, that's, too high of expectations to set for any coach. How did Archie address those, or maybe not necessarily address those specifically yesterday in his press conference?
Well, he didn't really talk about what he has to do in terms of, he did talk about, championships or wins and losses. He kind of talked philosophy, and I think that came over pretty well. He's a defensive first guy. And Indiana, under Tom Crean, has been very good offensively and very mediocre defensively. And that's kind of led to this inconsistent results. It led to Tom's firing. And, I think Archie has, he spoke to, recruiting from inside Indiana on outward. It's very similar to what you see in Illinois. You recruit your state, and then you go try to find the missing pieces from nearby states, and then go outward to the bigger cities where the other talent is. But that's what works, and I think that Tom Crean's staff got a little bit away from that in the last few years, and I think Archie really hit on that, and that's what sold a lot of people on him. I didn't really talk wins and losses, what he has to do, just really hit the basics.
Mike, I think there was a general consensus over here that there had to be a move, especially after that loss at Rutgers with John Gross. For Indiana, as the season went on, and certainly there were injuries, there was some bad luck, but the losses kept piling up. Did it feel over in Bloomington like there was a consensus that there has to be a move made, or was there still a portion of the fan base that was reluctant to do so given the 2 titles in 4 years, and they thought that Crean would be able to get them back somewhere?
It was a little bit unique here in that locally, I would have said 85-90% people were ready for a change, but nationally it wasn't viewed as some, job that seemed logical to open up. The people here, I think, had made up their mind on Tom Crean because it had been nine seasons, and it just been so up and down with the results. And I think they made up their mind that he might be a good coach, but not a great coach. And when you have 5 national titles and the history and the wealth of talent in the state, and I just think that people decided this wasn't good enough, and so it wasn't, it wasn't a big surprise for those of us who've kind of lived with the program the last few years.
Yeah, Mike, and I'm interested in your perspective on this because Crean led them to, a bunch of Sweet 16s, or 3 Sweet 16s. They've only had 4 of those since 94. He led them to 2 conference championships. They've only had 3 of those since 1993. What have been the challenges of that job, despite the Sampson NCAA sanctions, but what have been the challenges of that job ever since Bobby Knight left?
Well, one thing that's happened, Jeremy, is that they haven't kept the better players in Indiana home like they used to in the Bob Knight era. And this past recruiting class, it was the worst case ever because they had 4 players ranked in the top 35, top 36 or so, and all 4 decided to go somewhere else besides Indiana. And these are kids that had been on the campus multiple times. And so that's changed, and that has to, that's what's going to have to change for the new coach to kind of get past this Sweet 16 barrier that Indiana's had. That they have recruited okay, that the school recruits itself so well enough that it's actually gone out and pulled some guys like Noah Vonleh and Thomas Bryant and some very nice talented guys outside the state to kind of make up for that. But there's been a little bit of a loss of confidence among the high school coaches of what Indiana's up to, what Indiana's doing. And if that changes, I think they can get past this barrier. And at least that's the strategy I think that they have here, because that's what they need to kind of get back to competing at the level of Kansas, Carolinas, and Kentucky.
What kind of roster is Archie Miller taking over here, Mike? And what are the keys for him to have success in his first couple of years?
Well, right now he has to keep some of the guys around. they have a lot of juniors that could be grad transfers and be eligible somewhere else right away, or might look upon this as an opportunity to transfer. So he's got to work on guys like Robert Johnson and Josh Newkirk and James Blackman to convince them that that's worth staying here. Maybe Thomas Bryant, because we thought he was headed to the NBA, but his season wasn't that great. Now he's in the middle of the second round at best in the mock draft. So there's a chance now that he may stay for a junior season. But there has to be some buy-in from him with Archie Miller here the next week or two, or he'll be gone. So that's an immediate thing. They have 3 recruits. We don't know if any of them are really on board yet because it's so new. The news is so new. 2 of them already asked for their release, and that was prior to Archie's hiring. And so that they aren't. It's not a great recruiting class, but it was important pieces to building the necessary depth. And if they lose that, then it may take a few years of rebuilding before they can really compete for the conference title again.
Mike, trying to kind of identify when, the straw broke the camel's back, so to speak, with Crean, and how this would lead to a hiring Mike Archie. Last year, a lot of talent in the state of Indiana, and Crean was not really able to get those big names that went elsewhere, including Chris Wilkes out to UCLA. Was that maybe an indicator to the fan base that you had mentioned good, not great, and I think that's a pretty accurate representation of Crean. Was that something that even as we went into this season, it would have taken a pretty good amount of success for Crean to stick around?
Yeah, I think if this season had been along the lines of last season, where they were ranked and won the conference title, and it wasn't a great Big Ten as we learned in the tournament. Again, if they'd been 12 wins or more, I imagine he would still be the coach here. I don't know if he would have gotten that extension that because he was right now he would be 3 years out from his end of contract. But I think that the AD here brought up the inconsistency as the main reason for the change. So if he had another good season, that would have lent itself away from that label. So that that was part of it. I think that the consistency of bad defense though happened again. This year brought really horrible turnover rate for this kind of a program, and as they really struggled to replace Yogi Ferrell's kind of the dominance of the ball. So those things all added up to people being upset, and this was a lack of confidence. I don't know how to describe it other than he was okay, but he wasn't good enough.
OG Anunoby, is he going to go pro, do you expect, Mike?
Yeah, we believe that he will go pro.
Yeah.
Put it at 95% maybe, because he's still pretty high up on the mock drafts. I think those who are advising him kind of hint to us that he's going to leave. He's really good defensively one-on-one. I think that's really attractive to NBA teams, even though he wasn't quite when he did play this year, he didn't quite, impress as maybe we all thought he might. But, he can stop big-time players with his defense, and that's going to be attractive, especially those kind of playoff teams in the latter half of the first round.
Heading back to the press conference yesterday, Mike, and there was a story a couple weeks ago, and I wish I remember where I'd read it, just the reclusive nature of Bob Knight and the relationship or lack thereof that he has with Indiana. And it has to be a really unique spot where you have those championship banners and all the success he had, and yet he's not present and even has animosity towards some of the administration. Was there any reference, veiled or not, yesterday in that press conference, or did Archie wisely kind of sidestep any reference to Coach Knight?
I don't remember him mentioning Coach Knight, though. He brought up the tradition, and I know he actually brought up Tom Crean once. Mm-hmm. I thought the best thing he did was, he said one reason he took the job or was attracted to the job was the support that he saw when Indiana was really down, after the Campson's fiasco. They lost all their scholarship players, and they fielded a team that was horrible and won Big Ten game or what have you. That the fans still filled the arena and cheered on the team with a lot of energy. That was really good connection. But I don't remember. I think he. I don't know if he mentioned any of Bob Knight's players, but he kind of alluded to the history and that he wanted to talk to a lot of people like that. But no, it was kind of sidestepped. I don't think on purpose by him, but it wasn't really brought up during the press conference.
Mike, I'm just wondering, I like getting different perspective across the Big Ten. What do people over in Bloomington or Indiana think of Brad Underwood hire at Illinois?
Well, actually his name came up as a sleeper choice for Indiana. We thought that, we had some actually pretty good debates, threads on our message boards about Brad. I think the only negative people I saw were that maybe is he a proven defensive coach, because he's a heck of a good offensive coach. And that was the only negative, because Indiana has seen great offense and poor defense for long. They were like a little bit worried that Brad was a little bit of the same thing, but his teams have been so successful, and he's turned around Oklahoma State so fast. That's why his name was being brought up. So I think that people really, for the most part, liked him. That's why he was being brought up, as a possible Indiana guy when the job was still open here and he hadn't taken that Illinois position.
Great stuff from Mike Pegram, Pigs.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Pigs. Mike, I know you guys are busy, so I appreciate your time today.
All right, guys.
Hey,
Take care.
Good stuff with Mike Pegram, Pigs.com. I think Indiana got a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about coming up here in the next segment about Illinois and Indiana and how the hires compare. But that's a good hire, and I'm wondering what Archie's staff will be filled out with. And one guy I thought of who could be on his staff would be the former Illinois coach. Right, John Gross and Archie coached together under Thad Matta.
Wouldn't that be something?
I think John would want to be a head coach, right? I mean, he's been doing it for a decade almost now.
Yeah.
And it's hard to go back to being assistant. But if you're Indiana, it'd be a pretty good hire, wouldn't it?
Well, it'd be a great hire. And
knows Indiana, knows Ohio.
Yeah, and, you'd be compensated. At that point, wanting to continue to be a head coach is not based on money. So, in other words, if you have a good assistant job at Indiana, your family's fine. You're set financially.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the same as, a job he interviewed for was Miami, Ohio.
But right? I do think, especially how young he still is, he doesn't want to. He has two options here. He goes back, he does the assistant thing in Indiana, has success recruiting, and gets poached for another job based, like he did here, on the idea that he's an ace recruiter and he has some Power 5 experience. Yeah. But the other option would be to just stay in that, maybe the fear that if I get down to that assistant coaching level, I won't ever get back again.
Yeah, and I don't know if Jeff Goodman heard that he's a candidate, but he threw out Dayton, right, to replace Archie. That would be a phenomenal spot for him to go. Now, Dayton loses a lot of their senior class. That was a big part, but that's a good basketball program. It was before Archie. It will be after him.
But would they go after
That's
John
what that's what I thought. I think they'll go for a riser. That's what I would think.
Yeah.
But I would interview him. I think that would be interesting. Miami, Ohio, I think that'd be a great hire for them. Akron just opened up because Keith Dambrot was hired, who's LeBron James' former high school coach. Made 12 straight 20-win seasons at Akron in the MAC, which John Gross knows really well, knows that Ohio area really well. I think that would be a good fit. And, there's some other places as well. But, I think John can be successful. I do think there was a part of bad luck here. We got to acknowledge that there was that, but he also underachieved when he had his rosters, had his teams. But it wouldn't shock me if he had some success as a head coach. He's just got to learn from his experience here.
Yeah. And do you think that success would be at a step down?
I mean, he'd have to start there.
Yeah.
And that's the question is, do you want to be an assistant for a little bit and then turn that into because you're probably shooting for another job like that, right? If you can get Dayton, Miami, Ohio, or Akron now, I'd rather do that than have an assistant because you're closer to getting another big job.
Okay.
Most likely.
You can always give us a call at the Jupiters of the Crossing phone line or the Cheap Hour text line. Same number, 359-2255. A lot of interaction throughout the show.
He'd be the first coach at Illinois to go down a level after Illinois since who?
Former coach makes a move.
I guess Henson retired and then he went to New Mexico State.
Yeah.
But Kruger went to the NBA, Self to Kansas, Weber to Kansas State.
More lateral. I mean, it's still
but it's still that
demoted.
At that level.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kansas State's made more tournaments than Illinois since then, Card.
But as a program.
I get it, but I'm just saying he's staying at that Power 5 level. Bartow went to UCLA. Who's the guy before Bartow?
Harv Schmidt?
Yeah. Right? Was he just out of the business after that?
I think so. I think he hit a wall with what he could do.
That's 40-something years.
Yeah. Interesting.
Kind of amazing to think about, isn't it?
Well, history being rewritten every day.
If you want to weigh in, 359-2255. That's 217-359-2255. You can call the Jupiters with Crossing phone line or text the Cheap Hour text line. We'll talk a little bit Big Ten basketball, kind of look ahead since there's no Big Ten teams left in the Final Four. There weren't in the Elite Eight either. We'll kind of look ahead. Which team upgraded the most with their coach, Indiana or Illinois? Which team takes the biggest step forward, biggest step backward? And which coach enters next season on the hottest seat?
It is the Tay and J Show.
Twice a year, the doors to Memorial Stadium open for the most dedicated, most loyal, most thrifty Illini fans. Full of team-issued and team-worn apparel, with tons of Fighting Illini deals and steals, this is a stadium sale you can't miss. Illini Nation, you have 5 hours. One day, the biggest sale in town. Stop by Memorial Stadium April 1st between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. to get your gear before it's gone. Everything up to 80% off. Last chance. Once it's gone, it's gone.
This is Chris Raby inviting you to follow the Redbirds this offseason on the Cardinals Countdown to Opening Day show presented by Amarant. Join me along with Mike Claiborne for the latest news on the 2017 Cardinals. We'll hear from Mike Matheny, John Mozeliak, Cardinals coaches and players, and Cardinals broadcasters John Rooney, Rick Horton, and the voice of the Cardinals, Mike Shannon. Catch all the Cardinals action right here on the Cardinals Countdown to Opening Day show, presented by Amarant on the Cardinals Radio Network.
Another saving secret from Arm & Hammer. Most people aren't crazy about doing the laundry, but everyone loves saving money. Arm & Hammer plus OxyClean Power Packs makes doing the wash easier with convenient single-dose packs, and it gives you a savings of up to 50% versus the leading pot. And what's even better, Arm & Hammer Power Packs are the only ones with the 2-in-1 cleaning power of baking soda plus OxyClean Stain Fighters. Arm & Hammer plus OxyClean Power Packs. It has what everyone likes. Big clean, small price.
Joshua 24:15 states, "As for me and my family, we will serve the Lord." If we choose to serve anything but God, we're cheating ourselves, and of course, we're cheating God. God gave us grace and mercy. Out of an attitude of thanksgiving, the least we can do is make the commitment to serve God. Whom or what do you serve? This message brought to you by the Blossom Basket Florist.
The Blossom Basket Florist. The florist you pick.
Our Champaign County nursing home failed a recent public health inspection. They've been fined for inadequate care. Medicare has dropped them to a 1-star rating, and over 80 beds are empty. Seniors in our community deserve better. We've given the politicians who run the home over $37 million, and now have the worst-run nursing home in the county. Now they want more money, but refuse to make changes. We need to take the nursing home out of the hands of politicians and put it in the hands of a responsible organization that knows how to manage care for seniors. Opponents of a sale are spreading falsehoods. If the nursing home is sold, not only will no one be kicked out, but more seniors will be helped, and the quality of life will be improved for all. It's time to stop the political games and bring in professional management. On April 4th, vote no on the property tax hike and vote yes to sell the nursing home to someone who will give our seniors care they deserve. This is paid for by Save CCNH. Vote to sell.
It seems like in every home, there's at least one room that's either too hot or too cold. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. Mitsubishi Electric has your comfort solution. Mitsubishi Electric cooling and heating systems are up to 40% more efficient with no ductwork and whisper quiet. Individual room control, giving you the freedom to find your perfect comfort level and save money too. Make your whole home comfortable again. See Lance Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing for your comfort solution and live better.
Hi, I'm Troy Lands from Lands Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. Lands is your local Mitsubishi Electric Diamond dealer. Our technicians are experts at solving your comfort needs, one room or your whole house. Let us show you how a Mitsubishi Electric Heating and Cooling System can save you money now. Your comfort is our priority. Call Lands today at 1-800-AIR-REPAIR or find us online at landsinc.com. I'm Troy Lands, and you can count on my company because you can count on me.
Join the Champaign Parks Foundation for a night of dancing, singing, and laughing to benefit Champaign Parks and programs on Saturday night, April 1st at the City Center. Doors open at 7, with comedian Chris Schlichting taking the stage at 7:30, followed by Mike and Joe, one of the nation's most renowned rock cover bands who will get you moving to cover tunes from the 90s through today. Brought to you by Scotty's Brewhouse and Stevie J Broadcasting. Get your tickets for $10 or $20. Available now or at the door. ChampaignParks.com.
When you're heading home, Tay and J are on your way talking sports. Weekday afternoons 3 to 6 here on ESPN Radio 93.5.
428 from the Sports Center Update Studio. I'm James Woodard with your Sports Center Update, brought to you by Prairie View Landscaping. Email mypvdiscount@gmail.com for a free quote and get up to 25% off your 2017 lawn care. Register by March 30th to be entered to win a 55-inch LG Smart TV from Good Vibes. That's mypvdiscount@gmail.com. Four-star recruit Mark Smith drawing a lot of attention. That's according to Illini Inquirer's Derek Piper. Mizzou's Quanzo Martin and Michigan State's Tom Izzo both scheduled to have in-home visits with the Mr. Basketball winner. The Blackhawks blew a 4-1 lead in Tampa. They lose 5-4 in overtime to the Lightning. Chicago holds the first spot in the West. That's by 8 points over the Wild as Minnesota continues to collapse. The Blues prevailed over the Coyotes 4-1. Blues now 11 points clear of the Kings. That's for the final wild card spot in the West. Bulls off until Thursday. They're going to play host to the skidding Cleveland Cavaliers. The Bulls are a half game behind the Heat for the 8th seed. They're one game up on the Pistons right now. Into baseball, the White Sox have traded Peter Borges, a former Flyer guy, so that's
made some money off that, right?
Freebie right there.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? He's going to Tampa for cash or a player to be named later. You know, David Ortiz was one of those players to be named later. Rick Hahn.
There you go.
Yeah,
Work your magic.
There it is.
Work your magic.
And the Cubs officially released Munenori Kawasaki, my favorite bench player. I'm James Woodard with your Sports Center Update.
He's basically the guy in Major League 2, right? Yes. Tanaka?
Yeah.
That guy?
Oh, yeah.
James Woodard, stay on for a second. Is today your last day?
Today is my last day.
Ah, you moving on? Where are you going?
I will be heading just south of here to Mattoon. I got picked up by a different station. Gonna be
free agency. Stole them away from us.
We understand the business.
They offered you a better contract, huh?
It's longer term, more guaranteed money. I don't have to move my family that far.
There you go.
No trade clause.
Right. My wife's from there.
Well, congratulations, James.
Limited movement. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I have had a blast reading sports updates last hour here.
Shooting hoops.
Eating peanuts.
I have eaten my weight in honey roasted peanuts here,
yeah,
I'm sure.
That's what we do here. So what is your favorite Tay and J memory? How long have you been here, James?
Since end of summer?
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And
favorite?
I promised I wouldn't do this.
Favorite Tay and J memory?
Oh, boy. One that ranks up there. So I shaved recently.
Yes. Didn't know who you were.
And my favorite, at least Lon Tay moment, which could be its own 30-minute show on CBS. The Lon Tay moment.
Sounds like what's that guy, Chuck whatever, that starts all those sitcoms? Chuck Lorre.
Yeah.
Chuck Lorre's new sitcom.
Yes.
Starring Lon Tay.
Jerry Bruckheimer, if it's a little more dramatic. Some procedural
The Michael Bay of
shit.
sitcoms.
Dick Wolf, new series.
Yeah.
Also a guy whose parents hated him. Dick Wolf. But Lon walks by, and Austin's standing in the doorway. And there was a new intern here that day, and I forget which intern it was. And Lon goes, "Who's that other new guy? I don't think I know him." And Austin goes, "That's James. He shaved." And Lon was just like, "Oh my God! I'm so sorry."
Yeah. Well, James, we're going to miss you, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for all the help, man.
I will miss this place for sure. It's been a lot of fun. It's very relaxed.
Yeah, we try to.
Yeah.
You know,
we're idiots.
Yeah, well, I have come into, in my many radio travels, have come to notice that most radio people are idiots. That's why we're here.
Yes, that's why we enjoyed just spitting nonsense.
We fell back into this.
If we had pliable trades, we would be like pipe fitters or something.
That's right. That's right.
But we're not.
We talk.
Well, thank you, James.
Thanks, James.
I appreciate that very much.
All right, Carp, let's talk a little Big Ten basketball.
Ooh.
Big Ten basketball look ahead.
Oh. Kind of ironic.
Since there's no teams.
They're not in the tournament anymore.
I mean, the Big Ten is what we thought they were, right?
Pretty much.
Like 3 top 16 teams? That sounded about right.
Yeah, but I thought I thought Wisconsin was going to sneak into the
I saw you.
Final Four.
I saw you tweeting about
I
that.
can't do Wisconsin anymore, and I don't think we're going to have to worry about it next year.
Maybe we'll bring this up in this this little segment. All right, which team upgraded most with its coach? Upgraded most with its coach. Indiana going from Crean to Archie Miller, or Illinois going from John Gross to Brad Underwood?
I think it's easy. Illinois did.
Yes.
And part of that is what you upgraded from. Tom Crean won 2 Big Ten titles. He took
Tom
Indiana.
Crean's a good coach.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's got a Final Four under his belt. I know there's more measures as far as if you're a good coach or not. And Dwayne Wade certainly was a big reason that he got there. But yeah,
2 Big Ten titles.
Yeah, he's got a pedigree. And he won't land at, I'm guessing, what would be a good spot. If you're Dayton, why not look at Tom Crean?
I would think that would be. It will be interesting to see where he goes. He could do media. I know people don't like him, but he did the Yahoo Sports draft special last year.
He was great on it.
He was phenomenal. He was engaging. He was kind of fun. He knew his stuff. He knows basketball. He's a basketball nerd. So I think he can be a really good coach, but he might have a media career if he wants it. But yeah, I think it's definitely them because Illinois, because you hired a coach that was 53-1 in his conference at a lower level. John Gross was 34-30. Illinois missed 4 straight NCAA tournaments under John Gross. Underwood's made 4 straight, right? So you went from the coach with the worst Big Ten record of any multi-year coach at Illinois in almost a century to a guy who's done really, really well, has turned around Oklahoma State in a year. It would have been interesting. There's definitely questions about him. I think there's more questions about Brad Underwood maybe than there are about Archie Miller. Both upgraded. I think both got good hires, but Illinois upgraded more.
Question number 2, who takes the biggest step next season?
Biggest step forward in the Big Ten. I am all in on Penn State as a tournament team.
All right.
Next year. At least a bubble team. They will at least be on the bubble. They lost, they were one of the 15 youngest teams in the country by experience. And then they lost a bunch of really close games. I think it was 5 games they lost by 4 points or less in the Big Ten. But I think Tony Carr is an all Big Ten player. Lamar Stevens can score. They'll have senior Shep Gardner and Peyton Banks. They have talent, and I like Pat Chambers as coach. Some people might think he's on the hot seat going into next year. I love their identity. Now you mix that with talent, I think they're going to be pretty good next year.
I would agree with that. Maybe if I were to say a team that would be in the top 3 or 4 of who would take a big step, I think if we're just going off previous records, I would maybe throw Illinois in that mix, dependent on a couple other roster moves.
What about Ohio State?
I don't know. I honestly am of the mindset that they are where they are now, which is just mediocre.
What about Michigan State? Right, they're 5th this year? Is that a big leap to go to from there to...
If we're talking strictly, wins and losses, which I guess that would be the main measurement, then, I could see Michigan State dependent on Miles Bridges. And even if they don't have Miles Bridges, I could see them still top 4. Because a guy like Langford, who just in that second half of the season was terrific, and Cassius Winston, Nick Ward, young guys. I don't know who they lose, if anybody. Tum-Tum. That's it, right?
Tum-Tum Nairn. I think Gavin Schilling will get an extra year.
Right.
So obviously Bridges is a big loss, but they have some talent. And Jaren Jackson Jr., I believe, is coming into that program. He's a top 30 big man, so they're going to be really good, especially with Langford and Winston taking steps forward. And Nick Ward might be a Big Ten Player of the Year candidate next year, if for all we know. All right, Garp, which team takes the biggest step backward?
You know who I'm going to say.
I do.
Because I want it, and I also in my head think it will happen next year based on the last 5 years that they've had.
It's just hard because it's this program.
Nothing lasts forever. Wisconsin will be a top half of the Big Ten team for a while. That's still really good.
Sweet November rain.
But they will take a step. They will take a step back next year.
They have to, right?
You would think.
They have had 16 straight years of top 4 finishes in the Big Ten. 16 years.
Yeah.
But they lose Nigel Hayes, Bronson Koenig, Vito Brown, and Zach Showalter. Guys with 117 wins in their 4 years. 2 all Big Ten caliber players, 2 nice players. You get Ethan Happ, a Big Ten Player of the Year candidate, back. They'll find somebody who will step up and be great next year. That freshman point guard is probably going to be good. Colton Iverson will probably figure out and be a good player. I do think they're a top half Big Ten team next year.
Yeah, just because.
But this feels like this has to be the year because this is no longer Bo Ryan's program, right? Mm-hmm. We'll see what Greg Gard really is this year because there's more of his recruits, even though he recruited for Bo Ryan for a long time. But there is a big step backwards in experience and talent here. So I think they're the team.
I think Minnesota's another one to look at.
I think Iowa might be one. I love their young players.
I go back and forth on that.
But you lose Peter Jock.
You do?
Right, that's a player they don't have on their roster otherwise. I like Pemsel. I like their point guard. I like Tyler Cook. I think Tyler Cook can be a top 15 all Big Ten kind of player. But I just don't know. Are they going to get any better? I think they might be more likely to get worse.
What about Purdue if they lose Swanigan?
Yeah, but they get everybody else back. I think that's still a top 5-6 team. All right, Isaac Haas in the middle of that thing. Vince Edwards is back.
You know what's funny is I can't name you probably 4 guys on Purdue.
Carson Edwards.
And they just had a good year.
Sophomore.
There's something about Purdue that has been perpetually nameless.
Is Matthias back?
Yeah, probably. God, Matthias is just the token Purdue shooting guard that Lon hates.
Ryan Smith.
Yes, the new Ryan Smith. Matthias. Such a Purdue name.
There's probably some Ryans out there. That's an annoying name.
It is. You know what's sad is I was actually close to being named
Ryan. Yeah.
Thankfully, my middle name is Ryan.
They get everybody back, Carp, except for Spike Albrecht and probably Caleb Swanigan. If Swanigan comes back.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. So that's our step backwards. We're going Wisconsin. But that's hard to pick them.
No, they're going to take a step back. They have to.
Confidently.
And if they don't, I give up. They will be top 4 every year. I will pencil them in.
Didn't we think this with football after every coaching change they've had? And Gary Anderson gets them to Big Ten title games, and Paul Chryst gets them to title games. Bielema gets them to 3 in a row.
I think we will look back on this, and Greg Gard will be Weber-esque.
That's a steaming take, man.
That's a steaming hot take for you right there.
I like that.
I hope beyond hope, but I also think it is possible that Greg Gard could be Weber-esque.
Okay.
You can't inherit a better situation.
If you had to bet money on that, how much would you be willing to bet?
$3. I'd bet $3.50. That's all I'd bet.
$3.50. Which team is your Big Ten favorite next season?
Michigan State, if Miles Bridges comes back. If not, they're still top 3 or 4.
I think Michigan State, Maryland are definitely 2 of my top ones. Even if Bridges leaves, I just think Michigan State's loaded roster-wise.
Because Melo Trimble's not an early out guy.
No, Melo Trimble's back. Justin Jackson, Kevin Huerter, Anthony Cowan, all those guys back. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think Maryland might be your favorite.
How about how quietly Turgeon's done an amazing job over there?
He's a top 4 coach in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't finished outside the top 4 yet.
Where was he at before Maryland? A&M?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, he's been unbelievable, and he gets talent there. The other teams I would throw in there, Purdue, I would throw into the mix. I'd probably pick Michigan State or Maryland. And then Michigan. I know they lose Derek Walton Jr., and Zach Irvin, but Charles Matthews I think is better than Zach Irvin. And they had Jordan Poole, and Xavier Simpson becomes a sophomore. DJ Wilson and Mo Wagner become a senior and a junior. And it's John Beilein.
Yeah.
Right? I just think John Beilein's always going to have them in the mix there most of the time.
So who's on the hot seat then?
The hottest seats for next year, who you got?
Tim Miles.
I know. Thad's the other guy. You can throw Chambers in there, but I don't think Penn State's going to fire him. They got a good thing in him.
Yeah.
The expectation should be pretty low. But I think Pat Chambers will have success. I think Thad, still think it's going to be hard for them to fire him.
I think it will be one of those Lou Henson-esque, hey,
can you resign
nudge
before we got to fire you?
And then you find out you come to an agreement on a buyout of some kind, and everybody's happy.
But it is Tim Miles, because as much as that second year was great, at some point results matter, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Like he got 4th place in his second year there in the Big Ten, which was unbelievable.
That was Gross's first year, right? They both made the tournament back in 2013.
He and Gross came in at the same time.
Okay. So his second year was even better than the first.
Yes, his first year they finished 10th, then they finished 4th.
Oh, okay, got it.
So they lost Andrew White, and that really hurt them. And that was late last year. But they've been in the bottom 4 the last 3 years in the Big Ten, and they've invested a lot in those basketball facilities. They have probably the best arena. They got the best practice facility. At some point, you got to win. Mm-hmm. And for Tim Miles, this is a huge year. I think he's definitely on the hottest seat, even though he's likable. I think he's a good fit there. Just hasn't gotten good players.
Seems to be a lot of stability in the Big Ten because we only thought 2 names. I mean, if Penn State elects to move on, if they don't make the tournament next year, whatever, you're Penn State. I think you kind of need to understand your role or what your expectations should be.
If you're Penn State, I think he's a good coach.
Yeah, I do too.
Obviously, they got talent there now. I mean, Rutgers just hired a coach. Illinois and Indiana took 2 off. I don't think Fran's going to be in the hot seat.
No.
So, I mean, because I guess he could be, but I doubt Iowa would make that move.
He's got the young team excuse, if need be. And he's had some good success up there, especially relative to what Licklider and Alford did before him.
We didn't have Northwestern as a Big Ten favorite. They return everybody.
Yeah, they're going to be
Minnesota returns everybody.
I mean, Northwestern's going to be top 5, probably.
I think Minnesota and Northwestern are definitely top 7. And that's where, like, if you're an Illinois fan, it's going to be tough to get in there, right? Unless you get some really good transfers or Mark Smith, you get him and he's unbelievable. I think it's going to be really hard for them to get in there with all the youth they're going to have on this team.
It will be. The good news is I think the Big Ten overall will be improved. Wisconsin being the big exception of a team that loses everybody. But even a Michigan State that loses a piece like Miles Bridges probably will be very good next year. And you're looking still at 7, maybe 8 teams to get in the tournament. So you're going to be on the cusp of it.
You're deep. I mean, that's what the Big Ten is now. I think it's going to be a bunch of 7 to 11 win teams again next year.
And that's why this hiring cycle was so big and where Indiana and Illinois made out like bandits. Because while there are the sure things, and that'd be Izzo, Beeline, and I'd probably put Turgeon in there as well.
Painter, you can kind of throw in there.
Yeah, you can throw Painter in there as well, but we've seen this with Purdue.
They got a ceiling, it seems like.
Well, yeah, and they have these 2-3-year cycles. If you go back to the Hummel, Juwan Jackson, Lewis Jackson thing. Was it Juwan Jackson as well?
Juwan Jackson was great.
He was really good.
I loved those teams.
So yeah, think
Chris Kramer.
A 3-4 year stretch, really good. Take a step back. They're having that 2-3 year stretch here with Caleb Swanigan leading the way, and then if they take a step back, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I'd put those 3 guys in the top 3, but we'll be interesting to see what Archie and Underwood do. I think those 2, Indiana, Illinois, and again, Ohio State are kind of the wild cards going into next season.
It's a good conference, but I don't think it's going to take a monumental effort to get into that top half again. Not when the top half,
no.
Not when the top half is rounded out by Richard Pitino.
Top 5, no. I don't see them getting to that.
No, not next year. No. That will take time.
2 years, 3 years, maybe.
Well, and that's why the roster 2 years from now, if you project out, do the 2 deep, you think, ooh, wow, you get the freshmen 1 more year under their belt, and it does get exciting. But this is a first year that Illinois has an opportunity, I think, to finish in that top 8. Who else has to fall back for them to get there? That's kind of the question.
A couple texters. Iowa had stretches without Jock, and I think they played better without him. They'll figure it out next year without him. I'd have to go back and look at that, but they lost to Illinois a couple times when Jock was hurt.
Yeah.
Which team has the most athletic, talented team in the Big Ten? I'm going Michigan State, Maryland there.
By the way, Juwan Johnson. I said Jackson.
Juwan Johnson.
What was that last?
Which team is the most athletic, talented team in the Big Ten? It'd be Michigan State and Maryland next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And maybe Michigan in there. It's just they don't have the senior point guard that they had this year. That kind of makes that huge difference. That's Purdue's issue. They're big. They shoot. They just don't have that dynamic point guard. Maybe Carson Edwards can turn into that. They don't have that dynamic guard who can break people down and get to the rim.
If you're a Michigan fan, how big is Xavier Simpson next year?
Huge. Him and Jordan Poole.
Yeah.
Right? And Charles Matthews has to replace Zach Irvin, but I think he can.
Oh, that's right. Matthews transferred.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they have talent.
So they got some talent. It'll be interesting to see. But you lose that senior point guard, which is huge.
You can always give us a call, the Jupiters of the Crossing phone line or the Chief Bauer text line. Same number, 359-2255. It is the Tay and J Show.
DP Dough is the original Calzone company, and they cater all types and sizes of events, from office orders to private parties to entire visiting football teams. Everyone will be sure to enjoy something different than the same old sandwiches or pizza. DP Dough also delivers to nearly all of Champaign, Urbana, and Savoy until late at night. So give them a call or order online when you're hungry and no one else is delivering. With over 1 million calzones served since opening in 2006, DP Dough is sure to satisfy and fill you up. DP Dough, the original Calzone company.
The sounds of spring and the smell of flowers in the air, they all add up to Spring Green, America's neighborhood lawn care team. That lush green lawnscape is a result of a reputation earned through consistent performance. They become your favorite through quality service and professionalism. Spring Green will service and maintain your lawnscape with seeding, aeration, fertilizing, weed reduction, disease, and insect control. Now the ease and trouble-free convenience of Spring Green's professional lawn care's full program is yours at savings of 20% for new customers. It's backed by their guarantee of satisfaction. Over 32 years of satisfied customers reflect their commitment to Champaign-Urbana and the Mattoon-Charleston area. Call Spring Green at 217-359-2111 or online at spring-green.com. at 217-359-2111. Check out the new BMW of Champaign. It's not like the old Twin City. They have new on-site local ownership since 2013, along with a new state-of-the-art facility. With a Customer First Service Award winner for 2015, BMW of Champaign does business your way. Yes, they have tons of cars. Yes, they'll get you what you want. Yes, they discount, deal, and even pick up and deliver. So stop in, ask for Ben, and give BMW of Champaign a look. BMW of Champaign at the corner of Neal and Burwash in Savoy. When an accident occurs, you want to ensure your car is being taken care of by the best of the best. According to industry statistics, Tim's Auto Body is among the top 10% of collision repair businesses in the country. Major car brands have been quoted as saying that they're in an elite league as best in class when it comes to a business operation. Tim's Auto Body has been recognized nationally for their consistent high level of service and meeting customers' needs. With the complexity of today's vehicles, obtaining a certified collision center from some of the top manufacturers ensures Tim's Auto Body is up to date on all of the industry standards, as well as keeping their staff educated on all of the changes in the vehicle industry. Tim's Auto Body in Champaign. Why trust the safety of your vehicle with anyone else? Visit Tim's Auto Body at 701 North Madison, Champaign, or call 607-0119. Go to timtapman.com for more details.
You already know Houlihan's Restaurant and Bar at the iHotel is a great restaurant, but don't forget about the bar. Fantastic drink specials and mouth-watering menu items from snacks to full meals. A nice selection of draft, craft, and domestic beers, and just about any cocktail you can imagine. Watch a game with multiple flat screens on all sides of the bar, or grab some tables and make it a party. Drink specials daily, plus Houlihan's is now serving a delicious hot breakfast 7 days a week. Houlihan's at the iHotel. Check them out at the corner of First Street and St. Mary's Road, just south of the State Farm Center.
Hey, this is Brad again with Kramer Siding and Window Company, and for over 60 years, we've been providing worry-free home improvements. If you've thought about either siding, windows, maybe you need to replace that roof, how about a deck, a pergola, awnings? We also have the four-season sunrooms and screen rooms, or the gutter helmet. If any of those home improvements are in your near future, call us right now at Kramer Siding or stop by our beautiful showroom at 708 North Country Fair Drive.
Hi, it's Stevie J. Start your day with me along with Diane Ducey, weekday morning 7 to 9, here on ESPN Radio 93.5.
Tay and J Show, Mike Carpenter with Jeremy Warner. Yesterday on the 200 level, we talked a lot of Konzo. And it's not because he's Illinois' coach. No, we went another direction. I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
But you can't help but talk about Konzo because he is omnipresent. He is everywhere.
Kudos to Konzo,
yeah.
Right? He's made you talk about him because he's making some big moves. Hiring Porter Sr., you get Porter Jr., and the other younger Porter, who's a top 4-star recruiter or whatever as well. And, he was at East St. Louis High School, his alma mater. Mm-hmm. And I think his sister works there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was seeing Terrence Hargrove. Now, he can't talk to Jeremiah Tillman.
Technically.
Right. But come on, man. Yeah, they're trying for Jeremiah Tillman. They're trying to steal him from Illinois.
It's so annoying.
Now, Brad Underwood and Jamal Walker were in there the other night, and, I think Jeremiah Tillman's going to be here. But, boy, you're going to learn to hate Mizzou again real quick.
I don't have to learn. I already do. It's rekindled.
Doesn't that tell you they made a good hire?
Yeah.
I mean, for them,
mm-hmm.
I think they obviously are going to get a huge upgrade in talent. And that game's going to be fun next year.
I'll be there.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
I think we need to do the show, Ballpark Village.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And SLU made a good hire for them.
They did, but I do wonder now that you have Konzo and you have Underwood with Jamal Walker.
He's got players. He's got Jordan Goodwin and Cartier Gordon going there.
Well, just he'll have a few 13-win seasons in a row, and then he won't be so cute anymore. I mean, he's a bad coach. His record bears that out.
He's got players, though.
If John Gross is at SLU, a couple years, I'm thinking, ooh, he might get this guy, might get that guy, and he might get a Jordan Goodwin. But I don't see that translating.
And then Archie, I mean, they don't really recruit the same.
No, that's why
Indiana.
Even when Indiana opened up, I didn't have this sinking feeling that, that screws things up for Illinois. Because I even felt with the coaching pool, I would have loved Archie Miller.
Or Tony Bennett, who'd been named with, so I think that maybe push that timeline back, which Josh didn't want to do, right? He wanted to act quick, get his guy, get one of the guys on his top tier, and Brad Underwood was the first guy that kind of lined up.
And I just felt like Fred Glass was going to string that out, trying to go for the Grand Slam.
Yeah.
And that was going to be advantageous for Illinois. But, hey, kudos to Fred Glass. He made a good hire, and he didn't wait too long to do it. Let's have the Jupiters of the Crossing phone line. Mark in Urbana. What's up, Mark?
Hey, guys. This is my first time calling. It's a pleasure talking to both of you guys.
Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for calling, Mark.
Appreciate it.
Hey, I am calling because I think Brad Underwood is going to be a great coach. And I was just wondering, I know you guys probably touched upon this, but with Evans not coming, and that was his lead assistant, is there any idea who else is out there that's been under Underwood or someone that's maybe become available through with other coaching being fired and as well as is there a chance that, Underwood might look at Dion as a assistant coach? And I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate the call. As for names that are being thrown around,
I don't think Dion will be a part of the staff. It didn't work out for him at UIC, and if there's a support staff role, maybe, but I don't see him being an assistant. As for Lamont Evans hurt a little bit, but what happened is Mike Holder, right when he offered Mike Boynton the job, who was an assistant under Brad Underwood at Oklahoma State and at Stephen F. Austin, he actually couldn't get the job at Stephen F. Austin after Brad Underwood left. So Stephen F. Austin didn't see him as a good enough candidate, but Oklahoma State did. And they gave him the same contract as Brad Underwood. Here's $1 million for your first year. We'll talk about it after your first year.
What a vote of confidence.
Yes. So Holder didn't learn anything from that, but what he did do, that $3 million he got from Illinois, he gave Lamont Evans a rich assistant contract to be the associate head coach. And I think part of it was spite, with Brad Underwood saying, all right, you signed Jamal Evans, I don't know how much, or Jamal Walker, to whatever you're making.
Yeah.
I mean, we can guesstimate $275,000, $300,000.
Yeah, because they got $850 as the pool.
So if Lamont Evans gets $400,000 to $500,000 as an assistant coach, Illinois can't afford that.
No.
Because you need 2 assistants. And I don't know if he's worth that. Lamont Evans, good coach, good recruiter, did great at South Carolina with some of those guys who are doing great now, but you can't go to that level.
For the money, I understand that. But there is risk involved for Lamont Evans. If you are basically hinging your career on, not your career, but at least the next 5-6 years and how you're perceived based on what Oklahoma State's going to do with Boynton as your head coach.
I think he's close to a head coaching job, and if not, if it doesn't work out, he can be an assistant elsewhere. He'll be a top assistant for somebody. There's a lot of names being bandied about. I know Shane Hireman at Lalu is a guy that Derek Piper really likes. Some guys with Chicago experience, Isaac Chu's name comes up. He's at, I think, Texas A&M now. Emmanuel Dildy, Chin Coleman. There's some other bigger names. Former Kentucky assistant Orlando Antigua is a name that's out there, but he's under NCAA investigation for some academic impropriety, so I don't know if that lines up. People mentioned Jarrence Howard. I don't think he'll leave Kansas.
No.
But, we'll learn more and more. Final Four is a big weekend where all these coaches get together and discuss this. We'll learn a lot more after next week.
Coming up next hour, Michael Weisenberg, NFL NBA Draft.net, and Drive Time. It is the Tay and J Show.
Prairie View Landscaping is continuing their 25th anniversary celebration by giving away a 55-inch LG Smart TV from Good Vibes. Email mypvdiscount@gmail.com for a free quote, and you can get up to 25% off your 2017 lawn care. That's mypvdiscount@gmail.com. When you do, you'll be registered to win a 55-inch LG Smart TV from Good Vibes just in time for the Final Four. mypvdiscount@gmail.com. That's mypvdiscount@gmail.com.
Are you looking for a new home or planning to refinance your existing home? Hi, this is Todd Duracon from First Federal Savings Bank of Champaign-Urbana, getting you and your home faster with loan closings in 30 days, mortgage loans, and refinancing that's fast, friendly, and local. We invite you to visit our experienced team of mortgage experts to find out how First Federal Savings Bank can help you with your loan closing in 30 days. For more information, visit 356bank.com. First Federal Savings Bank of Champaign-Urbana. Get what you want out of life. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to How Well Do You Know Your Meat? Now back to the trivia. The freshest meat comes from your local grocery store. True or false?
True.
No. Contestant number 2.
It's false. The freshest meat in town comes from the U of I meat sales room off of Florida Avenue in Urbana.
Yes, that's correct. You're a winner.
For the freshest cuts of meat in town, visit the U of I Meat Sales Room. Open Tuesday and Thursday from 1 to 5:30 and Friday from 8 until 1. Just off Florida on South Maryland in Urbana.
Another saving secret from Arm & Hammer. Most people aren't crazy about doing the laundry, but everyone loves saving money. Arm & Hammer plus OxyClean Power Packs makes doing the wash easier with convenient single-dose packs. And it gives you a savings of up to 50% versus the leading pod. And what's even better, Arm & Hammer Power Packs are the only ones with the 2-in-1 cleaning power of baking soda plus OxyClean Stain Fighters. Arm & Hammer plus OxyClean Power Packs. It has what everyone likes. Big clean, small price.
Check out the new BMW of Champaign. It's not like the old Twin City. They have new on-site local ownership since 2013, along with a new state-of-the-art facility. With a Customer First Service Award winner for 2015, BMW of Champaign does business your way. Yes, they have tons of cars. Yes, they'll get you what you want. Yes, they discount, deal, and even pick up and deliver. So stop in, ask for Ben, and give BMW of Champaign a look. BMW of Champaign at the corner of Neal and Burwash in Savoy. Live from the Habib BPC Studios, this is WSJK Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals. Congratulations to Brian Tyson, our law enforcement official of the month, brought to you by F.B. Moran Security Solutions. Have respect for law and order.
I think you probably hit it on the head with teaching our kids. I do a lot of work with the college kids on campus. I mean, that's my population. Those are, 18 to 24 to 30 years old are the people that I deal with. And the diametric change in the attitudes of young people towards any sort of authority. I mean, and that's kind of a natural progression. But I listened to a gentleman speak, and he made a very good point. He said, everybody of our age complains about kids and the way they act and the way they are. And he said, kids are the same as they've always been. It's the parents that are different. And that really is the truth. I mean, you start teaching your children when they're young, what is respect? How many times do I go and I see somebody with a little kid point at me in uniform and say, oh, behave or he's going to take you to jail, which I automatically say, no, I won't take you to jail. You should be telling your kids if there's a problem, go find a police officer, go find somebody in uniform, not making them scared.
They're there to help.
Yes.
House Ways and Means Committee introduces a resolution that would force the president to release his tax returns.
Donald Trump has refused as a candidate and as president to release his tax returns, which begs the question, what is he hiding?
Committee Chairman Republican Kevin Brady says the idea is an invasion of privacy.
If Congress chooses to use this power to single out President Trump for political purposes, invade his privacy, and seize his confidential tax information, what prevents them from doing the same to other Americans?
A Russian billionaire close to President Putin says he is willing to take part in congressional hearings to discuss his business relationship with President Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort. Strong reaction to the president's executive order to unravel regulations on climate change.
Top legal officers of several states and major cities say President Trump's order will erase limits on power plant emissions, and they will fight the White House in court. New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman says the Trump administration's order is an attempt to, as he says, roll back history.
We're very confident that the EPA cannot simply dismantle the Clean Power Plan and leave nothing in its place. It has to have regulations in place on greenhouse gases.
President Trump, who has been a critic of climate change, couched his order as one that would create energy jobs, including opportunities for coal mining on federal land.
Fox's Gernal Scott. Wells Fargo has agreed to pay $110 million to settle a class action lawsuit over accounts its employees opened without getting customers' permission. A turnaround on Wall Street, the Dow jumping 150 points. Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
ADT presents What to Consider When Considering Home Security. An ADT sign is more than a sign. It's a line in the sand. On one side, your family. On the other, an uncertain world.
For over 140 years, more people have chosen ADT to help prevent crime than anyone else. Get ADT starting at just $28.99 a month.
Tested, trusted, proven ADT.
With 36-month contract for licensing and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Wesley had IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Coming after my house, my car. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
Wesley called Optima Tax Relief.
Oh, they were great people. Optima Tax. They know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-567-2261. 800-567-2261.
Optima Tax Relief.
Trump may not get help from Republicans in delivering on another campaign promise.
Last week, it was repealing and replacing Obamacare. This week, it's the wall. The White House submitted a supplemental request to lawmakers working on a budget for $1.5 billion in money to start building a border wall. But Republican Senator Roy Blunt thinks that would threaten current budget talks. The White House is proposing to pay for construction with an $18 billion cut to domestic programs. But Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says that would cut programs vital to the middle class. On Capitol Hill, Peter Ducey, Fox News.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says Obamacare will stay in place after House Republicans failed to pass an alternative last week. McConnell says there are no plans in the Senate to take up the health issue. Hillary Clinton is making another public appearance. She's speaking to a women's business conference in San Francisco.
At a women's St. Patrick's Day event in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Clinton said she, like some of her friends, has had a hard time watching the news these days, but
I am ready to, come out of the woods.
A reference to the picture of her walking near her home in Chappaqua, New York in the days after the election.
And to help shine a light on what is already happening around kitchen tables, at dinners like this.
Clinton is expected to continue to focus on women's issues in her upcoming speech at Georgetown University this Friday. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
The Southeastern Conference wants Arkansas lawmakers to exempt college sporting events from a new law that expands where concealed handguns are allowed. The SEC says it's concerned about safety at games. The new law permits people with licenses to have concealed guns on college campuses, inside government buildings, and some bars if they get special training. I'm Kathleen Maloney, Fox News Radio.
Thanks, Kathleen. I'm Jeremy Warner. Here's your ESPN Radio 3-day forecast brought to you by Chief Bauer. Trust the experts at Chief Bauer Service Experts to keep you comfortable all year long, whether it's heating or cooling. Call the experts at 866-EXPERTS or visit them online at chiefbauer.com. Tonight, mostly cloudy, a low of 42. Wednesday, overcast, high 60, a low of 49. Thursday, thunderstorms, high 65, a low of 45. Starting to feel like spring. Right now, overcast, 54 in Champaign-Urbana. It is Drive Time, presented by Honda BMW of Champaign. For new and used vehicles, visit their huge inventory at the corner of Neal and Burwash in Savoy, or visit them online at drivechampaign.com. Mike Carpenter, this will recap the first 2 hours of the Tay and J Show.
And we started off talking about Chicago, the old narrative, can Illinois recruit Chicago? We had a really good interview with Robert Smith, the Chicago Simeon coach, back in the 3 o'clock hour, and we'll play some of that at the tail end of this hour. But I think the general consensus is win, and you'll get players, regardless of geography. And also that neither you or I would ever want to be a head basketball coach for a Power 5 program because of all the ego stroking you have to do.
Yeah, sucking up you got to do, but also I think you got to be firm. And when we talked with Coach Smith, I think one of the things he said is Bill Self was up here a lot. He earned the trust of people towards the end. It took him some time, right?
And that's Bill Self, who's one of the most charming dudes ever.
And, Lon Kruger was winning and didn't really get many players.
Jimmy Collins effect.
Yeah, Jimmy Collins effect was a part of that, but he was kind of shut out of there until he started winning, right? Started winning Big Ten championships. So I think that's a big key for it. Brad Underwood needs to be up there. He needs assistance with ties up there. He needs to work it hard. But also, Chicago hasn't produced a ton of talent that Illinois has missed. Marcus Levette and Charlie Moore are the big ones. And Paris Parham was up there a lot. He was in on those kids. Paris Parham is a Chicago guy. He coached in the Chicago Public League. And you had him, and it didn't work. Why? Because John Gross wasn't up there enough, didn't have good enough relationships with them, and he didn't win enough. So that's what it comes down to. I mean, you did everything you could for Cliff Alexander.
Yeah.
You weren't going to get Jaleel Okafor or Jabari Parker. So there wasn't a bunch of kids they missed on out of Chicago. You also got to recruit elsewhere. So Brad Underwood needs time to develop those relationships, and Chicago is important. It's not the end-all, be-all, but it's a great resource for you. Illinois has done pretty well in the suburbs and in the Catholic League for most of their tenure. So, it's a progress. But it's obviously there's a disconnect between a lot of in-city schools and coaches and players in Illinois. And I think that can be rectified with a lot of winning.
Yeah, there's definitely a disconnect because Robert Smith is an ally of this program, and he was even voicing displeasure. I mean, in a diplomatic way, but he was letting his displeasure be known. And
that he hadn't heard from Underwood yet?
No.
He also said that Underwood wasn't at the state title game, but that's because Underwood was just getting hired that morning, had to go back to Oklahoma State, come back here to Champaign.
There's some texts that have come in, and this also goes back to that age-old downstate Chicago divide.
Yeah.
It goes beyond sports, and we see that here manifesting in, okay, well, how do we get back into Chicago? Well, if they don't want us, screw them. And I would not disagree entirely with people texting in and saying there's a sense of entitlement up there. Yes.
I've seen some people say, I'd love to go to a Final Four without a Chicago kid on our roster.
I don't care. I'd love to go to a Final Four with
That's
a kid.
That's probably unlikely. But
with a kid from Kathmandu. I don't care where they come from. But
nobody cares that Darren Williams is from Texas.
But it is a resource that you have
huge
in your backyard.
I mean, most rosters, you're going to have a majority of your players from Illinois, and there should be. There's too many dang good players.
Yeah.
Whether it's Peoria, Springfield, Belleville, the East, the St. Louis metro area, Chicago, the suburbs. There's too many kids. I mean, Champaign has produced a couple. So you got to recruit the entire state, but you also got to recruit elsewhere. And I think people lose sight of that. That Bill Self and Billy Gillespie went down to Texas and got a few players.
Yeah.
Corey Bradford was from Memphis, right? Robert Archibald from St. Louis.
That's right.
So you got to get players from elsewhere. And John Gross and staff did that pretty well. They just didn't get enough talent.
Well, and I think another thing, too, that goes beyond, and Brad Underwood talked about this, that 4 or 5-star kids does not matter to him as much. He said that recruiting is like beauty, something eye of the beholder. Yeah. And what I am encouraged about, and we don't have a lot of track record to go off of this, but I'm kind of deferring to his record in that he can identify talent that maybe other people don't.
And gets the most out of talent.
Yep.
Right? That's the most important thing. But the big question is recruiting. And at this level, you do have to get really talented
Yes, because
players.
otherwise, if you just identify the diamonds in the rough, you're Purdue. I don't want to be Purdue.
Well, Purdue's got a 5-star big man in Caleb Swanigan.
Exactly. So you take that out of the equation, and you're an also-ran, even though Matt Painter's a really good coach.
Or you have to do
both.
it unbelievable well and be Wisconsin. There's not a lot of programs that do that.
No.
Gonzaga goes overseas. They find their niche, right?
And that's why, if you want to look at the coaching tree that Underwood is from, and look at what Frank Martin's done in South Carolina, what Bob Huggins has done in West Virginia, they are not without talent.
Yeah.
There's a reason that South Carolina is in that position, why West Virginia, year in, year out, is a top 20 program.
We also talked to Mike Pegram of Pigs.com about the Archie Miller hire, and we kind of broke down, Carp. The bigger upgrade, obviously, was Illinois from John Gross to Brad Underwood.
Based on what you were upgrading from.
Yes. Tom Crean, I think, is a good coach. Wasn't probably a great one. Had too many inconsistencies. Didn't recruit that state and that city of Indianapolis quite well enough. Mm-hmm. But Archie Miller is a pretty dang good hire by them.
He is. And it's funny, if I were to rank the hires just based on not who they were replacing, but Coach A, Coach B, and I looked at their resumes, I think there are arguments to be made that Brad Underwood is the better coach. In more limited time, certainly at a level with Stephen F. Austin that is below Dayton, but then the 1 year at a Power 5 where you saw the improvement. However, I don't want to be disingenuous here. If Archie Miller would have been named the Illinois coach, I would have been over the moon. And certainly there would have been that initial reaction of, we got the sexy hire that you did not have with Brad Underwood.
The thing Archie has, he has that Elite Eight. He's recruited pretty well. I mean, you kind of can see who he can recruit.
Yeah.
He's coaching the A-10 for 6 years, right? That's a way better league than the Southland was.
No comparison.
Now, you saw Oklahoma State 1 year with Brad Underwood. If you had another year, you'd feel a little bit like you knew him more.
Yeah.
But Archie Miller, I think we know more what he is, and his name resonates more than Brad Underwood. He's a known name. Archie Miller has been mentioned for the Florida job, for some big jobs, including this Illinois one, and he had a short list. Brad Underwood, I don't know how many places he would have went, but Illinois, I think they both got good coaches, but Archie Miller is the more noticeable name to most college basketball people.
A good hire. He's going to have success there. He's not, in my opinion, or I don't think it's likely that he's going to have the level of success that Fred Glass outlined in his opening press conference. Now, those are just words. and they can be quickly forgotten if Archie Miller comes out, has a good first year, wins a Big Ten title in his first 3 years, something like that. But I think it does speak to what I would call inflated expectations of an Indiana fan base that for the last 25 years, that has not been an elite program. That is a long time. Even UCLA, I know that you've equated the two of them. UCLA had Final Four runs in the 90s. In the mid-90s.
Mid-2000s.
And the mid-2000s.
Right.
Every decade, they've made a run. We have not seen that now for 3 decades.
3 in a row under...
Right. Last
Allen,
Final
right?
Four for Indiana, what was that, 91 or 92 with Calbert Cheney?
Yeah, 93.
That's a long...
Well, 2002,
time.
They made it.
And I also
made the
think,
championship game in 2002.
That's right. Good point. And then Mike Pegram, we had him on from Peaks.com, and I'd asked him a question about Bob Knight because it's one of those things that, not being over there in Bloomington, I don't know what the mindset of that fan base is regarding this monolithic figure.
It's just kind of hanging over.
And I don't know what effect, if any, that has on it. Tom Crean, for the most part, he wasn't Bobby Knight. That might have played a bit of a role in it as far as success goes. But he was able to kind of still create an identity that was removed from what Indiana basketball was.
We're probably too young to remember Lou Henson, as he retired and stepped away. But Kruger won right away.
And I think
and then
that
Self
Illinois
came in.
And that's what's interesting. If Lou Henson would have had a couple national titles under his belt.
Yeah.
Then
and they were still on amicable terms.
Yes.
Right? We were still very present. The fact that Bob Knight, the greatest coach in Indiana history, is not even involved in that program and nobody wants him involved.
It makes me wonder about Duke post Coach K. Are we going to see a similar thing as we have with Indiana post?
He's the god there.
Well, no. I don't mean how they view him. I mean their success as a program.
Well, they're going to hire a Duke guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can. With Michigan State, it's almost like you should hire a Michigan State guy.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is. Maybe Dane Fife becomes that guy because he's an assistant there.
Well, it's funny because I think on a few very, very small sleeper lists, and I know the Pegram mentioned Underwood being on that. I saw Dane Fife in a couple articles and thought that would be
because he's an Indiana guy and they don't want him to be the replacement for Izzo. But that's another program. It's like, man, that's really difficult to not promote from within because the expectations are ridiculous for those programs.
Yeah, they are. But with Indiana, though, what would you call it? Solid B+ hire.
Yeah,
I mean, I would
say, which is a very good hire. Right?
Yeah, and I would say the same for Illinois, given the circumstances.
That's Drive Time, presented by Honda BMW of Champaign. For new and used vehicles, visit their huge inventory at the corner of Neal and Burwash in Savoy, or you can visit them online at drivechampaign.com. We'll talk about some of the top NBA draft prospects coming up next with Michael Weisenberg, NBADraft.net.
It is the Tay and J Show.
ESPN Radio Sports Beat. From Charlotte, here's Dari Noka.
Talk about awkward. Imagine you're a dude who flies out to your girlfriend's family's house for Thanksgiving. Things go south while you're there, and you break up with her, but you can't get a flight home for days. It's Thanksgiving. Now what? You have nowhere to go. You're just hoping that she and her family can deal with you until you can get away. How's that going to go? Welcome to being the Raiders. You've just dumped your fans, and you have nowhere to go. Like the dude at Thanksgiving who will hope that he and the ex and her family can still be friends, the Raiders are sadly doing the same with their fans. Owner Mark Davis with this beauty after the league owners decided 31-1 they would allow the move. We know that some fans will be disappointed and even angry, but we hope they did not direct their frustration to the players, coaches, and staff. Ha! Sure. Yeah, no worries. You guys stay as long as you like. We'll be there for you. Please get ready for home games in front of nobody except those who are hurt, offended, and angry. 2 or 3 more seasons in Oakland after this breakup? Good luck. Wow. In 60 seconds, it should make you think differently about his teams.
AutoZone is proud to introduce new Duralast GT brake pads. They're race ready, just like ones used by Team Penske. So you might be wondering, what is race ready? Well, if you guessed, incredible stopping power and pro-grade performance with carbon fiber technology and V-slot design that reduces wear and increases stopping so that when you drive fast, you can stop even faster. You wouldn't be wrong, technically. New Duralast GT brake pads, proven tough from the tracks to the streets, and only at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Howdy, folks. KFC's Colonel Sanders here. You have someone in your life you want to get KFC's new $10 chicken share with? It could be a friend, more than a friend, or even a spouse. It's okay. Be brave. Go ahead and say, I want to get a $10 chicken share from KFC and share chicken with you. It's who you are. Don't be ashamed. Just head to a KFC and share 9 extra crispy tenders, 6 pieces of original recipe, a lot of popcorn nuggets, or 12 hot wings. And don't be afraid to be who you are. KFC. It's finger-licking good. Limited time offer. Participating KFCs. Prices may vary. Tax and substitutions extra. Hot wings not available at all locations.
It's a very powerful video. Kentucky's De'Aaron Fox crying while answering questions, sitting next to his teammate Bam Adebayo after Sunday's loss to North Carolina. Fox was the best player in the NCAA tournament while he was in it. He probably greatly helped his NBA draft stock, and he's very likely one and done. But that doesn't mean that De'Aaron Fox doesn't care what happened during that one season in college. And the same goes for Bam Adebayo. It's easy to blast John Calipari for recruiting one-and-dones and helping ship them off to the NBA, but hopefully this video will show you that he also recruits kids who, while not spending much time there, do care about Kentucky, their teammates, and their success in college basketball. With the ESPN Radio Sports Beat, I'm Dari Noka.
Some of us came to Urbana to get an education, and we discovered our lives here. Some of us were born and raised in this community and found our livelihood. Urbana is home. We love what it offers: wonderful schools, beautiful parks, and welcoming neighborhoods. But Urbana is facing some challenges. We're lagging in growth. Some neighborhoods are plagued by crime and rental properties that are crumbling. And city government hasn't had professional administration in 10 years. That's why I'm excited to vote for Diane Marlin for mayor. Diane will make Urbana a better place to learn, live, work, and raise a family.
I'm positively for Urbana. I'm for more effective, responsive, and inclusive city government. I'm for careful planning and smart growth. Our greatest strength lies in the people who care about our community: neighbors, city employees, business owners, and students. Everyone must work together to move Urbana forward. I'm Diane Marlin, and I would be honored to have your vote for mayor April 4th.
Vote Diane Marlin for mayor of Urbana, April 4th. Paid for by Citizens for Marlin.
Coach Mike Ditka is not just talking sports. What will he say next? Hear him here Monday and Friday mornings from 7:30 to 8 with Brother Johnny and me, Stevie J, on ESPN Radio 93.5.
Better make this one good.
Oh crap.
It's the last one.
5:19 from the Sports Center Update Studio. I'm James Woodard with your Sports Center Update, brought
it's
to you
so
by...
hard to say goodbye.
Brought to you by... At least get me through the...
to yesterday.
through the spot.
He's got a live read to do. Hey, James, I'll take care of the live read, actually.
Okay.
I got it. I mean, after the update.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
I thought you were doing it right now. I was like, all right, go ahead, Cart.
Should I restart the ESPN music?
We just made this his worst update ever.
You're right.
This is what you can use for your future resume.
This is going on the demo reel right here. Here's my last update at that station. It's me stuttering around and not getting through the read. Four-star recruit Mark Smith, he's drawing a lot of attention. That's according to Illini Inquirer's Derek Piper, Mizzou's Quanzo Martin, and Michigan State's Tom Izzo scheduled to have in-home visits with Mr. Basketball winner. Blackhawks blew a 4-1 lead. They lose 5-4 to the Tampa Bay Lightning in overtime. Chicago still first in the West by 8 points over the Wild. Blues over the Coyotes 4-1 last night. Blues now 11 points clear of the Kings for the final wild card spot in the West. Bulls off until Thursday. They host the Cleveland Cavaliers. Bulls a half game behind the Heat for the 8th seed in the East. White Sox trade Peter Borges to the Rays for cash or a player to be named later. The Cubs released Munenori Kawasaki. And in the NFL, a couple new rules. Replay now centralized at headquarters, and the leaping defender on field goals and PATs now illegal. You cannot jump over a lineman.
I'm so upset at all these rules.
But what's a catch? I still don't know what a catch is.
Yeah. Nobody knows what a catch is, but Shea McClellan's only usable talent, jumping over centers. There goes his Hall of Fame career for the Patriots. I'm James Woodard with your Sports Center update.
Thank you, James.
Tay and J Show, Mike Carpenter with Jeremy Warner. Got to tell you about...
I think that was his best ever, by the way.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Usually it's Lon chiming in something to try to distract him.
That was professional.
Hey, we got a really cool thing coming up later this week. Prairie View Landscaping, of course, along with Good Vibes. They have 25% off your 2017 lawn care. All you have to do is email mypvdiscount@gmail.com. That's mypvdiscount@gmail.com. But that's not all.
Whoa.
You get a free quote for 25% off your lawn care.
That sounds good.
You get registered to win a 55-inch LG Smart TV from Good Vibes. We're giving that away Friday morning on Stevie J Show. So it's mypvdiscount@gmail.com. That's mypvdiscount@gmail.com. 25% off your 2017 lawn care and a chance to win your 55-inch LG Smart TV from Good Vibes.
Remember when like a 20, 30-inch TV was a big deal?
Your 24-inch Magnavox.
What was your TV when you went to college?
I had an Insignia gray TV. It was a big monster
tube, right?
I mean, it was a
TV.
tube. Yeah,
I had my grandma's like Magnavox 30, or like it was 28-inch TV.
Yeah.
Took up half the car.
I got a $99 Insignia DVD player and like a $200 Insignia TV, and then I splurged on nice Klipsch speakers for my laptop.
Now, see, did you go to school with a laptop?
I did.
I went with a desktop, being like, I don't need one of them fancy laptops.
Yeah, and the laptop stopped working 3 years in. You know,
Right.
you spill things in it.
I didn't get a laptop until I was like a junior in college.
Yeah. I took it to Best Buy, and they said you need a new motherboard. And at the time, I didn't know a motherboard was a real thing.
Yeah.
I thought they were lying to me. I thought it was Star Trek talk.
When I went to college, I had a Zune MP3 player.
Oh, wow.
Not an iPod.
And well, to make you feel better.
iPods weren't like definitely the thing yet. Like we were just getting an MP3 player.
I started with an iPod Mini Blue,
Yeah.
which I think was maybe 16 gig, and then immediately upgraded 2 years later that 160 gig. Still have it.
Had a flip phone. I remember I really didn't text until I was a junior in college. Like
Wow.
we didn't text. Who texted like in 2006?
We had instant messaging.
Yeah, we had AIM.
I T9 Word it though. Like I would do that with my flip phone.
What's T9 Word?
T9 Word is basically you hit in the numbers and it tries to guess what word you were trying to enter.
Oh yeah.
So if you do 2, 7, 8.
I just remember having to text somebody. Took like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it took a long time.
Because you had to press the number over and over
still,
again.
even back then, preferred T9 Word to actually talking to somebody. Because conversations usually just, hey, what are you up to? I don't know. Or just text.
We had an interesting technological innovation time when we were in college.
And then the transition to Facebook Messenger, that happened just after college, maybe?
Yeah. Facebook, you had to have an EDU address back then.
Yeah. Sort of like vinyl records, though. I feel like Instant Messenger is going to come back for AOL.
AIM?
Yeah. Yankees Guy 86. That was mine.
Big Head 734.
Big Head?
Yes, because I have a big head.
Well, I mean,
I was a teenager when I made that.
It's not small.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's get to the Jupiters at the Crossing phone line. We've talked a lot of basketball today. Robert Smith, Chicago Simeon coach, talked about the recruiting angle. Then we talked with Indiana's Mike Pegram of Peegs.com on the Scout.com website about the Archie Miller hire. Now let's bridge between the high school to college. Now we'll go college to the pros. Talk a little NBA draft with Michael Weisenberg, NBADraft.net. How you doing, Michael?
Doing well, Mike and Jeremy. How are you guys doing?
Doing fantastic. I'm just watching this tournament, thinking about all the big-time prospects. And guys like you, I hear from, a lot of people who know this NBA draft process well, seem to think this draft is loaded. I mean, how does this draft compare to recent NBA drafts?
I would say it definitely is a lot better than last year's draft. 2015 draft actually it wasn't necessarily hyped, but it turned out to be quite loaded and has just some fantastic players right now. Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker the other day with the 70 points, among others. And this draft seems to be really nice at the top, and then has a little bit of depth to it. So it's a good draft without necessarily like a marquee superstar who you're going to kind of hinge your wagon to. But it does have a lot of good players who should be pretty productive with some with a chance to be perennial all-stars.
So if you had the number one pick, who would you take?
The guy who's number one on my board right now is Markelle Fultz. And he just did so many things so well on offense this season. He's great in the pick and roll. He shoots off the dribble at a really high efficiency, and his team was absolutely terrible. So some people held that against him. Some people, of course, questioned his will to win. He was hurt at the end of the season, but I think he did enough to show that you could possibly run your offense through him down the line. and he could be a really, really high-level offensive player with some defensive potential as well. He's about 6'4" with near 6'10" wingspan, just fantastic agility, really creative near the basket, and I just think that he has the highest upside of anybody in the draft.
It seems like a loaded draft for point guard in that top 5, top 6, top 7, or whatever it is. I mean, Markelle Fultz, a lot of people have as the number one guy. Lonzo Ball, people have compared to Jason Kidd. That's high praise. But De'Aaron Fox outplayed him head-to-head. And then Dennis Smith Jr. of NC State. How do you kind of separate those guys?
Well, so I am a huge fan of Lonzo Ball as well. I got to see him in high school a few times, and I love his passing. And he can do so many things on the court without having to score. Plus, he showed the threat of the three-pointer from like 25 feet out quite often this year, and shot it at a really nice rate. His creation off the dribble and the fact that they didn't run a lot of pick and roll at UCLA kind of has some people concerned about his ability to create for himself at the next level. But I think in a team concept, he's going to be a really good player. And his defensive instincts were on display, and the way he turned around UCLA was rather impressive. I do know, obviously the showdown matchup was won by De'Aaron Fox. My concerns with De'Aaron Fox, I think he's a fantastic athlete. He is a really good on-ball defender. I am concerned about his shooting and his strength. Mm-hmm. Now, he didn't necessarily show these things in the UCLA game. They ran the pick and roll at a ridiculous rate. It just kind of displayed how UCLA wasn't necessarily able to keep up with that. And I had some concerns about UCLA's defense that were on full display during that Kentucky game. And De'Aaron Fox also he shot so much better than he normally does. But when you're talking about from outside and from the mid-range and off the dribble, he really, really struggled at times this year. His rate, as far as his field goal percentage, was one of the lowest we've had of top point guard prospects in a long time. And there are so few point guards in the NBA who struggle to shoot at the level De'Aaron Fox has this year. So that's my concern with him. I like Dennis Smith a little bit better because of the shooting. I think he's a similarly fantastic athlete. I worry about his defense a little bit, but I think with point guards, you kind of see that the offense is really the focus there. And as long as you're able to, have some defensive resistance, you can kind of worry about the rest. And then, once you get to big men, that's where you worry more about things like defense, rebounding, those kind of things.
He's Michael Weisenberg at NBADraft.net. Sorry, Michael. You can follow him on Twitter at NBA Draft, Mikey V. I want to kind of ask you, because basketball at almost every level now has become positionless, right? I mean, they were blurring the lines more and more. So how has that impacted how the NBA values prospects or positions or whatever it is?
That's a great point. I think you kind of really want versatility, and you want these guys who could maybe play multiple positions. So you really think about a guy who you would maybe label, he only has, I would say a good example is Jordan Bell, where people will look at him, they say, he might not even have a 7-foot wingspan, so he's a power forward. Well, you could maybe kind of see, with what Cleveland's doing with Tristan Thompson and, what some of the other teams are bringing to the table. If you have a guy who can rebound and block shots at Jordan Bell's level and, is willing to run in transition, you could possibly see that, because the post-up game isn't as valued anymore, because I think teams kind of realize that post-ups are always going to be one-on-one.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a lot more cutting. You're seeing a lot more of guys just kind of running the floor and trying to get out fast. So, when you're not necessarily as worried about a guy having to cover a 7-footer anymore, because that guy could be such a defensive liability and lead to so many open shots if he's not fast enough to stay on the floor. And I think that's also what you're seeing with some of the power forwards, where you see a guy like Jason Tatum or a guy like Josh Jackson, and I would say even especially a guy like Jonathan Isaac, where you could see them playing the 3 or the 4. And I think a lot of teams are very happy about that option. And I think that makes those guys all the more appealing.
Michael, let's do a little either or. You mentioned two of the names there, Josh Jackson, and Jason Tatum. Out of those two, who do you like better as an NBA prospect?
I lean towards Josh just a little bit. I think Josh, just the athleticism, can do a little bit more off the dribble. His passing is great. Jason Tatum, as far as his I love Jason Tatum's footwork. I think that Jason Tatum's a better scorer right now. But Josh showed some... I think on the year, Josh probably finished with a higher three-point field goal percentage. And while his shot definitely has a hitch and you're not incredibly confident in it, and the fact that Jason Tatum shot over 85% from the free throw line and Josh was around 55%, the shooting indicators favor Jason Tatum, but what Josh does on defense, too, that's really the impressive part. His lateral quickness is amazing. And I think that athleticism and his overall feel for the game and the competitive fire that he plays with, those are the things that I think make Josh Jackson such an appealing pro prospect.
Another couple guys for you here, Malik Monk or Miles Bridges?
I lean towards Malik Monk. I think that Malik Monk is just one of those guys who's going to score at any level. He actually, I'm not sure, but there was a point where he was the highest scoring player on a points per minute basis. I know he's undersized, as is Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges is another one of those guys who kind of fits that positionless basketball and is super explosive. But he's also, they're both not relatively long, but I trust Malik Monk's shooting. I think he shoots in so many different ways. He's great at catching off screens, off handoffs, off the dribble. So that's probably why I lean towards Malik Monk. But I think Miles Bridges showed in the tournament, too. Like, he had a great game against Josh Jackson, and he had a really good season. He showed some ball skills and some ability as a passer as well. So I think they're both good prospects. I just probably lean a little bit more towards Monk.
We're mentioning all these guys, Michael, and none are in the Final Four.
I know.
Yeah, who's the best prospect left, or the best couple prospects left in the Final Four for people to watch?
Well, the guy that we have highest right now is actually Zach Collins, and he's coming off the bench for Gonzaga, but he's a freshman, and he is a really good shooter, provides some rim protection. He's legitimately 7 feet tall, and then... It's kind of funny because some of the guys in the Final Four aren't necessarily, your top NBA prospects. But you have another interesting freshman who doesn't necessarily play a ton on UNC, but when he does, he really affects the game, and that's Tony Bradley. And he's a center, 6'10", 7'4" wingspan. He was one of the leaders in the nation in offensive rebounding percentage and just a really good rebounder with a nice touch close to the basket. Justin Jackson has been one of the better players in the NCAA this past year, won ACC Player of the Year, and he has really improved as a shooter, was always a good scorer and had a nice floater close to the basket, but his shooting has just gotten that much better. And I think he was at least around 40% from three-point range this year, plus had great size, did a really good job defending Malik Monk in the Elite Eight. And then a guy who I think is kind of been under the radar well before the tournament was Sindarius Thornwell.
Yeah.
And, his defense has been great. He's just a bully near the basket. There aren't really guards as strong as he is. And I think that he's just one of those guys who showed people what they were kind of missing during the season because he had a really great senior year.
How does Caleb Swanigan fit into the NBA? Because he's kind of one of those borderline guys. Does he go? Does he come back and maybe go into a weaker draft next year if it is? I'm not sure if it is, but how does Biggie fit into this NBA?
That's a great question, too. I think Biggie has a place. I think that, he was one of the best rebounders in the nation. Yep. his offensively, the guy can just do some great things. You saw with his passing against Iowa State, and he just he's always had these amazing hands, that soft touch near the hoop, and even with his body the way it is now, like I don't know if he's 250 pounds, but whatever it is, he's lost a lot of weight and he's gotten into much better conditioning. And I think when you're looking at possible undersized centers, or even since he can stretch the floor, possibly playing the four at times, he's another one of those guys who kind of fits into things where you would have more questioned his size, because I think he's at most like a little over 6'8", but he has a 7'3" wingspan, and yes, he will struggle. We saw against Iowa State with Deontay Burton, like how he struggled to stay in front of him. So that's probably why he's better slotted guarding centers. But Biggie is just one of those guys who's so strong and he's skilled. So I think that there's definitely a place for him in the league.
Michael, before we let you go, I want to ask you this. A lot of college fans are probably like, man, I've barely seen any of these guys and they're going pro. I mean, we've seen this with the one and done for a really long time. I mean, it's smart of these kids, right? Because it seems like the bigger book we get on people, whether it's Melo Trimble, right, at Maryland or somebody else, the worse their draft stock goes. So for these kids, it seems to make a lot of sense. For the NBA teams, they get a year of it, but for the college game, right, we only get to see these guys for 1 year.
Yeah, and I always call it a guilty pleasure. I could see, having no age limit, but I feel like for the most part, I think it kind of protects teams' investment. Yeah. They didn't want people scouring through high school gyms, which is what happened before the age limit came in 2006. And so I think it at least gives you like a little bit more on that. And then, yeah, it's kind of knowing the right time to leave. I feel like with Melo Trimble, he was a guy who, that's a great example. I'm not sure exactly how high he would have went as a freshman. Yeah. I feel like there were, some red flags there just as far as how much he turns the ball over and, is his shooting real, those kind of things. But he obviously his stock would have been much higher had he left. And his lack of length too. But I think that, yeah, it's just kind of knowing the right time to leave. And I like the fact that you at least get to see these guys a year in college. And I think it makes them that much more ready for the NBA after that initial year. Because we saw when high school guys would come into the league, how much they would kind of struggle, at least initially. Yeah. And you even see a guy like Brandon Ingram, who's young for his class, had a great freshman year, and he's taking some time. So I see it both ways, but I don't know. I'm one of those people who also will say that at the most you're going to get maybe 12 or 13 guys that leave after 1 year, and that leaves a lot more freshmen and a lot more players who are going to be drafted over the next few years. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't necessarily feel that the one and done is the worst thing in the world. Sure. But I can definitely see it both ways.
He's Michael Weisenberg, NBADraft.net. Follow him on Twitter at NBA Draft, Mikey V. Appreciate your time as always, Michael. We'll catch up soon.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Great to be on.
Yeah, good stuff. And Michael Weisenberg, NBADraft.net. I'm looking at their mock draft card. Of the first 18 picks, 15 are freshmen, 3 are international players. Wow. You have no sophomores, juniors, or seniors in the top 18 of their mock draft.
Special class.
The first one is John Collins out of Wake Forest, a center, sophomore, and then Yvonne Rabb out of Cal, a sophomore.
He's a first rounder?
There are no seniors in their first round.
All right.
The first senior they have going is Kansas State's Wesley Iwundu at pick 36.
How unbelievable. Would that be the first NBA draft where a senior's not in the first round?
That's a good question. I mean, some of the juniors they have is Grayson Allen. I don't know if he'll come out. Jonathan Motley of Baylor. And that's it.
Oh, wow.
Justin Jackson of North Carolina.
Okay.
So there you go.
All right.
It's a freshman. I mean, for those kids, I get it. Go get your money. Mm-hmm. Might as well get paid while you're getting trained.
No, that was a good point, that usually these ones that do come back, and Melo Trimble's the most recent example, it hurts. And
it doesn't help.
No. The more tape, you're just going to be scrutinized more and more. And it's not just that. You go through your freshman year, by the time you come back, you're going to improve as a player, but all your opponents are going to have all that tape with which they can work. Those conference opponents would have already seen you a couple times. Your production is just naturally, usually, I would say, going to kind of stagnate. At least in the case of Tremble, that's what it kind of has been.
Yeah. Hey, if you missed our interview with Robert Smith, Chicago Simeon coach, talked about the Illinois-Chicago disconnect. There's some interesting stuff from Robert Smith, so we'll play that when we come back.
Sounds good. It is the Tay and J Show. Guidance, trust, protection, service. It's the mantra of GTPS Insurance. When you work with GTPS, you'll never have to call an 800 number in a different state. You deal with people who live and work in our community and know it's important to your business. GTPS is your local source for business insurance, property, general liability, workers' compensation, and group health insurance, and they'll work with you to formulate the best package for the needs of you and your business. Contact a GTPS insurance agent today at 359-9000 or visit online at gtpsinsurance.com.
You already know Houlihan's Restaurant and Bar at the iHotel is a great restaurant, but don't forget about the bar. Fantastic drink specials and mouth-watering menu items from snacks to full meals, a nice selection of draft, craft, and domestic beers, and just about any cocktail you can imagine. Watch a game with multiple flat screens on all sides of the bar, or grab some tables and make it a party. Drink specials daily, plus Houlihan's is now serving a delicious hot breakfast 7 days a week. Houlihan's at the iHotel. Check them out at the corner of 1st Street and St. Mary's Road, just south of the State Farm Center.
The sounds of spring and the smell of flowers in the air. They all add up to Spring Green, America's neighborhood lawn care team. That lush green lawnscape is a result of a reputation earned through consistent performance. They become your favorite through quality service and professionalism. Spring Green will service and maintain your lawnscape with seeding, aeration, fertilizing, weed reduction, disease, and insect control. Now the ease and trouble-free convenience of Spring Green's professional lawn care's full program is yours at savings of 20% for new customers. It's backed by their guarantee of satisfaction. Over 32 years of satisfied customers reflect their commitment to Champaign-Urbana and the Mattoon-Charleston area. Call Spring Green at 217-359-2111 or online at spring-green.com at 217-359-2111.
It's warming up around Champaign, and that means it's time to get outside and ride in a Polaris off-road vehicle. And the best time to buy is during the Polaris Spring Sales event. You'll find great financing, plus rebates up to $2,000. You'll even get a free 2-year extended warranty on any full-size Ranger, or any Sportsman 450 or 570 ATV. See your Polaris dealer now. Offers valid through April and vary by model. No charge for promotional 2-year extended warranty. See dealer for details. Off-road vehicles can be hazardous to operate. Always wear a helmet and take a safety training course.
Napa know-how.
A Napa guy knows the only way you'd give a fresh and minute driver a brand new car is if he promises to never drive it. Instead, let him grind the gears and knock over the neighbor's mailbox in something a little more suited to his skill level. And with over 500,000 parts and a little Napa know-how, he can safely drive something that's nearly as old as he is. It's not perfect, but it's perfect for him. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.
Another saving secret from Arm & Hammer. Most people aren't crazy about doing the laundry, but everyone loves saving money. Arm & Hammer plus OxyClean Power Packs makes doing the wash easier with convenient single-dose packs. And it gives you a savings of up to 50% versus the leading pot. And what's even better, Arm & Hammer Power Packs are the only ones with the 2-in-1 cleaning power of baking soda plus OxyClean Stain Fighters. Arm & Hammer plus OxyClean Power Packs. It has what everyone likes. Big clean, small price.
When you're heading home, Tay and J are on your way talking sports. Weekday afternoons 3 to 6 here on ESPN Radio 93.5.
Tay and J Show. Mike Carpenter with Jeremy Warner wrapping things up on a Tuesday evening. Lonte will be back tomorrow, and I think the rest of the week as well.
Yeah, we're going to have a baseball preview show.
Hey.
We've been Illini heavy, and we'll probably have Illini breaking news tomorrow. No, I don't know. I'm just saying because we're scheduling a baseball preview.
It would make sense.
Right, so then we'll have to throw that out or whatever. But no, we plan on doing a baseball preview. Austin Berkland's been setting up. We'll talk Cardinals, White Sox, Cubs as well, and preview, give our predictions, all of that, because we're really close to opening day. What, just Sunday night's first game?
Sunday night, Cubs Cardinals at Busch Stadium, right?
Yeah, and you can hear all the Cardinals games, of course, here loud and clear on ESPN Radio 93.5 and all of the Cubs games as well on our sister station, Carp.
Oh, yes, US 105.9.
105.9, because it switched
WGKC.
from 95.3
That's
to
correct,
105.9.
which is good news for Cubs fans in the area. A little bit stronger signal, reaches a little bit further, so that's exciting stuff. That now we have those two paired up on ESPN and US 105.9, and we have our bus trip, I believe, next week as well on the 5th, and I think that's pretty close to sold out. But that's what a Cubs-Cardinals game will do, especially after what we saw last year.
We had Robert Smith, Chicago Simeon coach, in the first hour because the topic is coming up again. Illinois recruiting Chicago, the disconnect there. And we started off talking about his Simeon team, the success they've had. But then we got into it about Illinois recruiting Chicago, and Carp asked him to start off what he thought of the Brad Underwood hire, and Robert's answer was pretty interesting.
I don't really know because I don't know him. I mean, it's kind of sad, but I don't know him at all. I mean, I haven't even spoke to him yet, so I don't know. I mean, people have been saying some good things about him, but I don't know much about him at all.
How important, Coach, is then the assistant coach hires for Illinois to recruit a city like Chicago? We always bring it up whenever a new coach comes in, but how important is that assistant staff since, he is kind of a guy who's been at Texas and, then at South Carolina and Kansas State?
Well, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge on who he brings in. That guy's going to have to really understand the city of Chicago. He's going to have to be willing to work. But just going in past years, it's not just going to be that assistant. The head coach is going to have to be in as well. I think Parrish Parham did a great job of coming in, but, you got to have a head coach there with you and fighting and battling the streets of Chicago just as well as the assistant. So I think that's something that really has to be done.
And just before you hopped on, Coach, we were talking about, how important is it for Illinois to get that assistant that does have the Chicago ties, but you hit on it, that the head coach is really still the figurehead for this program. What would be some of the things that Brad Underwood would have to do, even before next basketball season started, to kind of get his name out there a little bit more? I know he's not the splashiest of hires, but how does he have to sell himself and this program?
Well, he have to come in and just really take over. I mean, Bill Self did a great job. Lon Kruger, they did a great job of coming inside of Chicago and, just putting their foot down, and they were the face. It wasn't more so the assistant coaches. It was more so those guys. They came in and they was in the gyms. They got to know the coaches. They got to know the neighborhoods. They knew everything that was going on inside of Chicago. And the assistant coaches did a great job as well, but they were here. And, just having somebody here that guys can know and see, is really good. It just helps so much.
He's Robert Smith, Chicago Simeon coach. You've had a couple former Illini come here. We'll ask you about those guys as well. But we were kind of talking about if Illinois is winning, are we talking about this as much, Coach, about getting Illinois struggling to get some top kids in Chicago? How much has to do with them just not winning enough?
Well, that's probably the biggest thing. Guys want to be in a winning program. They don't want to go places and try to start it up, or try to help it get to that point. But I think that, Illinois is a gold mine. I think you've got the best basketball players. I mean, you have 47 guys from the state of Illinois playing college, playing the NCAA tournament this year. Now, of course, all those guys cannot go to Illinois, but I mean, if you get 5 or 6 of those guys, you got a team, you got a tournament team. So I think that's huge. Just getting in here and getting some guys from Chicago. I mean, everybody can't come from Chicago. Right? It's some great basketball being played down south of Illinois, and there's basketball played all over the country. But you got to have some guys from in-state that's going to pursue some of these other guys who see that to come. And in the years when Lou Henson was there, that's what it was. Those guys saw other guys going there, so they went. Jimmy Collins did a great job here in Chicago, and Lou Henson was, like I said, in Chicago. Everybody knew who he was. The players and the coaches knew who he was, not just the coaches. So that's something that's going to be huge. But just got to get those guys here and be able to, put their foot down.
You mentioned how a lot of these recruits, they don't want to have to be the one to start up a program, and that is a lot of pressure to put on the shoulders of a 18-year-old kid. Hey, make us good again. But other than winning, going to a winning program, which I would assume would be at the top of the list for many of these kids, what would be the second most important thing that they're looking for? Would it be NBA aspirations, that this, Coach X has put this many guys in the league, or are there other factors that you would put just behind having a winning program?
Well, that's definitely, guys want to get to the next level. I mean, those kids not just going to Kentucky just because Calipari said come there. You know, his track record proves that, you know, every year he's sending these guys to the NBA. So that has to happen. I mean, I don't know the numbers right now of Illinois, but I don't know if there's any guys right now after Darren and, you know, Augustine and some other guys that's in the NBA. So that's huge, you know, to say, well, who do you have in the NBA? I mean, I know that they show kids that all the time. I know for Evan, that was huge with him, you know, with Coach Floyd. He was able to say, hey, look, I took guys who were not top 100 guys. Hey, they played in the NBA for 7, 8 to 10 years. Hey, this could possibly be you. And that was one of his selling points to get the kid to come to UTEP. So I know that is, you know, part of it because that's those kids' dream. And if you don't have the body of work, then it's too hard to just get them to come there.
We appreciate Robert Smith's time, Chicago Simeon coach. And, you know, Coach, I think we've talked about this before on the show. And is this just an Illinois thing that we always talk about this with Chicago? Or does this come up with DePaul, Illinois State, Northwestern, too? I mean, do people talk about the same things about getting the city kids, or is it more about Illinois?
Well, I think it's all over the state. You know, I'm not for sure the numbers myself, but, you know, when you look at it and you look at most of the schools, I think DePaul is, you know, they pretty much have some guys from Chicago or have had some, you know, in the past couple of years. So, but I just think getting the guys to stay at home is huge for the coaches. I don't know what the problem is. I mean, I wish I had the solution because, I mean, I'm an in-state guy and I want to, you know, support all of the schools in-state and I want our schools to win. You know, I mean, I love college basketball, but I would love to see Illinois or Illinois State or DePaul playing in the Final Four on Saturday, but that's just not happening. So I just don't know, you know, exactly what it is about the in-state schools. And a lot of kids, they do want to get away.
Yeah.
You know, they do want to get away, and that is part of it as well. So, but we have some great facilities here. We have some great places, you know, that kids can stay at home and make this, you know, basketball here what it used to be or what it could be.
Coach, before we let you go, I want to ask you quick about some of your guys who have played here. DJ Williams is going to be a junior. Obviously hasn't played as much as he probably hopes, but what do you think is key for his progress and turning into that kind of Big Ten player that we all envision him to be?
Well, I mean, you had to get on the floor first. Yeah. I mean, you never know what he's going to be if he's not playing. So he just needs the opportunity. You know, I mean, it's not one-sided. I'm pretty sure he has to do some other things to get out there as well. But, I mean, when you got a top 100 kid, it's just hard to sit him, you know, on the bench and just have him stuck there. I mean, you got to give him an opportunity. But, you know, I'm not the coach.
Yep.
I'm not at practice. So I don't know exactly what the whole deal is. You know, I entrust in the coaches when I send the kids there that they're going to take care of them, make sure that they, you know, do what they're supposed to do with them. But it's also a two-way street. Those guys got to definitely do what they're supposed to do as well. So I'm looking for good things for DJ, you know, the next 2 years. Hopefully he gets that opportunity. You know, I'm really proud of Jalen Tate, you know, of how he, you know, handled the whole situation about starting and then not really playing at all. You know, he still was a great teammate, came to practice every day, did whatever they asked him to do. You know, and that's just a, you know, part of our program. You know, he understands he's going to get his degree, you know, and that's the big thing. When we talked, it was like more about him graduating and, you know, going on with his career and whatever that may be. So those guys, they did a great job while they was there. You know, Simeon has always been a part of Illinois, and hopefully we can continue that. We just have to, you know, build, you know, some better relationships, I guess. I don't know. I mean, you have a guy here for 2 weeks and half the city coaches haven't talked to him yet, so I don't know how kind of relationship that's building.
Okay. So he's got to make more of an effort then, you're saying?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's been here for 2 weeks. I mean, if it was me, I would have been at the state championship after I got hired.
Mm-hmm.
That's my personal opinion, to show my face and say, hey, look, here I go. I'm off and running, and I'm going to take this thing to the next level. But I don't know you know, what he had to do. That's just me talking as if I was the coach. But, I mean, a lot of people I talk to say we got a great guy. You know, he knows what he's doing. He is a good hire. So whatever support I can have for him, I don't have a problem with supporting it. I mean, I would love for Illinois to be in a national championship soon.
That's Robert Smith, Chicago Simeon coach, earlier on the Tay and J Show. I know some people might not like what he says, but I appreciate his time. I appreciate his honesty, and it kind of is enlightening of what some of the Chicago Public League coaches think.
Also have to thank Mike Pegram from Peegs.com, talking Archie Miller in Indiana, and Michael Weisenberg from NBADraft.net. We'll see you tomorrow. Lon and Jeremy will be here. It is the Tay and J Show.
Hey, this is Brad again with Kramer Siding and Window Company, and for over 60 years, we've been providing worry-free home improvements. If you've thought about either siding, windows, maybe you need to replace that roof, how about a deck, a pergola, awnings? We also have the four-season sunrooms and screen rooms, or the gutter helmet. If any of those home improvements are in your near future, call us right now at Kramer Siding or stop by our beautiful showroom at 708 North Country Fair Drive.
Taking steps to get fit is fun and can support great causes this spring. Stevie J Broadcasting is letting you know about a few 5Ks in April to take note. On Friday, April 7th at 6:30 at Unity West School off Route 45 and the Sedora Slab 10 miles south of Champaign, the PTO is raising money for playground equipment. Participants can register for $25 at runsignup.com/race/IL/Tolono. Sunday, April 9th, the Illini Veterans Memorial 5K starts at 10 a.m. near Follinger Auditorium near the main quad with sponsors like Rockwell Collins, committed to hiring veterans, and S&W Contractors of Illinois. Illini Veterans Memorial 5K raises money for the Center for Wounded Veterans and Higher Education. Sign up now for these 5Ks April 7th at Unity West in Tolono with the Twilight event and Sunday, April 9th off the quad on campus at 10 a.m. Check this radio station's website for details.
ESPN 93.5 invites you on our annual bus trip to see the St. Louis Cardinals take on the world champion Chicago Cubs Wednesday, April 5th. And it's all brought to you by Rosati's Pizza in Urbana. Buy your bus and right field game day tickets for just $99. Or register to win a set of free tickets at Rosati's Pizza, 701 Gregory in Urbana. It's our annual bus trip to Busch Stadium at St. Louis to see the Cubs take on the Cardinals Wednesday, April 5th. Get information on the trip by calling 367-1195 or at espncu.com today.
Our Champaign County nursing home failed a recent public health inspection. They've been fined for inadequate care. Medicare has dropped them to a 1-star rating, and over 80 beds are empty. Seniors in our community deserve better. We've given the politicians who run the home over $37 million, and now have the worst-run nursing home in the county. Now they want more money, but refuse to make changes. We need to take the nursing home out of the hands of politicians and put it in the hands of a responsible organization that knows how to manage care for seniors. Opponents of a sale are spreading falsehoods. If the nursing home is sold, not only will no one be kicked out, but more seniors will be helped, and the quality of life will be improved for all. It's time to stop the political games and bring in professional management. On April 4th, vote no on the property tax hike and vote yes to sell the nursing home to someone who will give our seniors care they deserve. This is paid for by Save CCNH. Vote to sell.
Live from the Habib BPC Studios, this is WSJK Tuscola, Champaign-Urbana, your home for the St. Louis Cardinals.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Kevin Winter. 2 weeks, 1 day. That is all that is remaining in the NBA's regular